times. Like the inflation is at an all-time high, and salaries are they're not increasing that much. Even if they are, a friend of mine calculated it for me and said, even if you're earning like 100% more, now your expenses are not like 100% more. For example, I moved houses twice in the last 3 years, and now I'm paying, the rent I'm paying right now is like 200% of what I started with on this same salary. So I say my salary is for 3 different things. So like the day job is for living expenses. Electricity tariff has increased twice. There's water bill, there's light bill, there's so many things to consider. Then my 9th job is for skincare. Your skin starts caring when you take care of it. So and skincare is now more expensive, just keeps getting more expensive. So like things that make me happy, that's for one of my income streams goes to. Another is for rent, specifically dedicated to paying rent. And you know, I'm also a firstborn, first daughter, first granddaughter. So there's black tax too.
Oyidemola Abati is another young person who has found herself juggling many jobs and gigs.
In terms of the juggling, it's not so hard anymore. People do it now, like especially now that the pandemic changed everything really. Before the pandemic, people used to ask me, how do you do it? But now, everybody has to learn how to do it. I have friends that are working 3 jobs, they are working 4 jobs. It's stressful, but you know, you have to survive somehow. So for me, when it comes to passions, things that don't have to do with money, I work maybe, I can say once a week or on weekends. I have my easel here, so I do my paintings. If it has to do with resume writing business, I set up a schedule that enables me to work on.
Thanks for staying with us. It's time to look at the papers now and see what made it to the front pages of some of our national dailies. And to discuss that with us, we have Mr. Chris Kinde Wandu, chartered arbitrator in the UK. Good morning and welcome to the program, sir.
Good morning, sir, and welcome to our viewers.
Okay. Today we're looking at, we're starting with the Punch newspaper, and the Punch newspaper leads with security agencies begin massive soldiers police deployment. That is hardship protest. That's what it's saying. They begin massive deployment. NPF places operatives on red alert. NCASOs fortify custodial centers. NSCDC deploys 30,000 personnel. So hardship protest is coming up, and the security agencies are deploying a lot of personnel for this. I'd like your comment.
First and foremost, if the government had done the needful, there would have been wasting of resources on deploying security agencies, because there wouldn't have been the need for Nigerians to protest. That is the fact. So what the government is doing is just wasting resources as far as I'm concerned. These are resources that would have been plugged into, maybe deploy that money into the security agencies and getting them necessary equipment and other, trying to improve their welfare. It would have gone a long way, because at the end of it, billions and billions of naira. You don't just deploy security agencies. You buy food for the vehicles, you're going to pay the security agencies, the logistics, and the rest of it. But that is even not the issue. The fact remains that it seems that if you listen to what the statement from the IG yesterday, the IG has finally succumbed to that. It has lowered down his initial threat that there will not be protests. Then from there, he moved that the protest leaders should go and put down their names at the various police stations, write down their names, their contacts, and rest of them. Yesterday, he has toned it down to Nigerians they can protest. and this, has asked all the DIGs, AIGs, commissioners of police to make sure that those going to protest are protected, and so that it will not be hijacked. And that is what we have been saying all this while. Every Nigerian has a right to protest. You don't need a police permit. You don't need any permit from anybody to protest. That has been decided even up to the Supreme Court. So what the police can only do, or security agencies can only do, is providing security. And you see what has been happening within the last 24 hours, where you are now seeing, we are seeing allegedly government-funded protesters against protesters. Rallies holding in some parts of the country. But this is right. If government have done the needful, if the president hadn't done what he did on the 29th of May by unilaterally stopping petroleum subsidy when he came in, when he would have sat down to look at the situation and able to take an informed decision on issues like that, when he floated the Naira the way he did, and other policies which he took unilaterally without even giving it a second look, when the government refused to meet its own demands of providing certain palliatives to Nigerians, that is the result of also what Nigerians are protesting against is hardship. They are protesting against inability to feed themselves, their families, inability to move around because they cannot afford it, inability of their children to go to school so those are the basics. But in as much as this protest is going to take place, it now behoves on the security agencies to make sure that it is as peaceful as possible.
It's possible that the protest against protests is peaceful, and the one that was scheduled for a long time now is anticipated that, or is going to be violent according to how the people are thinking. The government has been saying that it may be violent, it may be hijacked and all that, but people are protesting right now and it is not violent, which means protest is possible for protests not to be violent in Nigeria. Why is that other one labeled as a protest that might escalate into something else?
When the protest is violent, you know that there are certain people within government that are fueling that. Let me give a classical example. In 2012, there was the Occupy Nigeria protest in Lagos, and in Lagos, it lasted for several days. Thousands and thousands of people trooped to the Ganipa grounds at Ojota, beating drum. That's under a good talk, Jonathan. For the duration of that protest, there was no single incident because the government of the day allowed Nigerians to express themselves. A few weeks ago, there was a protest by the Nigerian Labour Congress and TUC over a minimum wage. And across Nigeria, that protest was so peaceful. Police provided security for those that were engaged in the protest, and it went all successfully. The protest at the NSAS protest in Lagos was very peaceful at the Lekki toll gate for several days. We had the celebrities, Nigerian youth, and rest of them converged at Lekki toll gate to protest, beating drum, making noise, merry, and the rest of them. It was not until the security agencies came in and started using weapons, tear gas, and the rest to disperse the protesters that, if you remember that even the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, came to the protest ground and even joined the protesters, as it were. It was not until security agencies started shooting, started throwing tear gas, and everything went out. That was when hoodlums took over the protest and now unleashed mayhem. So protests can be peaceful if we want it to be, which is why I say security agencies. But let me tell you, the basic fact is that it has gone beyond just protest. The fear of the government is that if this is allowed to fail, then third, fourth colonies and Situa may be able to take over the protest, and the outcome may be terrible. It might be to unseat the government and the rest of them. So the government needs to do the needful. But all this meeting, personally, if you ask me, this protest is already successful, even if you don't hold, because the government is now listening to the people. You've been seeing them calling traditional rulers, calling on this, calling on that, and the rest of them, and saying that they should be given time, whatever that means, to be able to meet the demands of Nigerians on issues like this. For me, whether it holds or not, because I don't know whether it's going to hold or not on Wednesday, but even if it doesn't hold, the fact is that the government know that Nigerians are suffering, that Nigerians cannot be taken for granted again, that the excesses of government should come to a stop, that the government should really sit down and look at the issues affecting Nigerians as it were. Even if this is not successful, if this continues, you can be rest assured in the near future, the one that is going to happen, it will be organic in nature, that there will not even be notice and rest of them. Nigerians might just put into the street, and before you know it, what we are trying to avoid will happen.
Okay, well, but what is your take on the body language of the president, not just the presidency, but the president himself? We have seen that his ministers are begging for time, governors are begging for time, that he's meaning well for people. We've also seen the president sign the minimum wage, 70,000 naira minimum wage into law. Just this morning we're hearing that the federal government is going to start the selling of 50 kg rice in designated centers for as low as 40,000 naira. But are these enough to douse the tension in Nigeria regarding this hardship that we're facing?
It will not. All the government to do is go back to status quo. If there is only one problem that issue that started all this, and that is the removal of oil subsidy. My brother, that was where the problem started. And after that was done, then government say, oh, the petroleum subsidy it was not removed by us, it was removed by the former government before we came, it was not budgeted for. But who announced it? It was the president at his inauguration. The president didn't even wait to look at the books. He didn't wait to take over and look at the issues as well. He didn't wait to have a meeting with stakeholders within the industry and be able to find a better way of handling. He just came and unilaterally say, oh, the subsidy is gone. As if we're in a monarchy. No, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. So the economic policies of government, so all these necessary palliatives to come and sell rice, where are you going to get the rice? Is it not the same one that they send to the state, that most of the states have not gotten the so-called rice? You send 20 dollars to a state, something that cannot feed a one village. You say a state, you say you have, that is not, we're just wasting time, wasting money. The president to go back, so I still believe that. And you know that the subsidy is being paid, whether they like it or not. So many people have come out, those that know, have come out to say that subsidy is being paid. As of last time, one of the ones we read last week was that about we subsidized petroleum products to the tune of about 770 billion naira on a monthly basis. So who is fully good? So those are the issues. On to be able to sort out the fundamentals, all this little palliative here does not fit the needs of Nigerians is just in good. So let us go back to starting. If that is done, and just as they have done now, by giving Dangote, asking Dangote to pay the code, they are going to supply Dangote with about 425 or 450 barrels of crude oil for the refinery, and they should pay in dollars. That is
in naira. You should pay in naira.
Yes, in naira. Yes, to be paid. Yes, to be paid in naira rather. Those are some of the issues that because we realize that even within the system, there are so many cabals that don't want us to work for the president. And that is what you should be looking at. His over-bloated cabinet. Why do we need the 42 ministries? In Nigeria, at this period, what the constitution says that every state should have a minister. So even if you put at that, so we say 36 states and FCT, that is constitutional, that is 37. Every day you say Nigeria should tighten their belt, you are buying a new plane that is costing billions and billions of naira. That's why the fact that you have over 9 to 10 planes within your fleet, you are building new house for the vice president, and you ask yourself what happened to where. So those are the, so he has to be able to show some level of empathy to Nigerians that you really care. That is what Nigerians need at this point in time. I'm not also asking and your age are now talking down on Nigerians and say Nigerians are their servants. This will not happen. This will not happen. Nobody can do this. Anybody that raises their voice is trying to show. Those are the issues. Those in government are supposed to speak for government are not speaking for government. Rather, they are to a large extent try to boil Nigerians into going on this strike. Those are the issues that for me that are fundamental. Let the government do the needful. A price of yam is as at 10,000 naira now. Guys, a tuber of yam. We are talking about, oh, we have signed the minimum wage. Now, every day should pay about a bag of rice is over 80,000 naira. So if the person that receives that 70,000 buys rice, what will you use in cooking it? Transportation is up the roof. You have seen what is happening now. Petroleum, because of the scarcity, petroleum is about over 1,200 or 1,300 per liter in most parts of. So what kind of country are we running? Those are the issues that should be addressed. And not just government calling certain people to Abuja, giving them transportation, feeding them, and they say they will go back. And you have seen the kind of thing is going. You now see pseudo groups that are non-existing saying, oh, we are pulled out of the protest. We are pulling out of. We are not part of those that organize it. The government should be engaging those that are organizing this protest, so as to be able to listen to them and also put things in place to be able to. As I said, the protest may not go on Wednesday, Thursday. It may not be successful, but if we don't hold on to this and be able to make sure that government will not make sure that some of these issues are not addressed, then the one that will happen later is the one that is not organized, and that is the most dangerous. And Nigeria, I continue to say, a hungry man is an angry man. A man that has nothing to lose is ready to give in to anything, and that is the situation as it were.
Yes, because there are some people who will feel, if I stay at home and don't protest, I die. I go to the protest, even if they shoot me, I die. Something must kill a man. And that should
be. The most terrible state in a man's life is knowing that he has nothing at stake as far as his life is concerned. So he doesn't even care. He's ready to die, whether you are shooting or not shooting. And you know what they used to say? How many people soldiers will kill? You know that slogan. It has gotten to that point, and I don't think we should allow this to happen. So government should listen to the people who are doing the need.
Okay, away from the protest, do you think, you just touched on Dangote, do you think that now selling to Dangote in Naira and other things those incentives that you mentioned are enough to, or this is an end or the beginning of the end to this war that we've seen between Dangote and the stakeholders in the oil industry?
I can tell you for free that certain people within the NNPC will also want to frustrate that directive. It has happened in the past, not only in the oil sector, but other sectors. I've said time and time again that there are always some people within government that want to, because of their service. For goodness sake, somebody that is making billions and billions of dollars on a monthly basis from importation of, we fight tooth and nail to be able to make sure that this doesn't succeed. So it is for government, the president, to make sure that it is within the prerogative of the president to make sure that this works. You know that the president is the Minister of Petroleum. So if that directive did not succeed, then he will be held accountable and responsible. This is what we've been saying in the past. But look, come to think of it, even if you are directing that the Dangote should be allowed to get that level of crude oil, especially for local consumption, the question will ask yourself, what is our total output in terms of production on a daily basis now? If you understand what I mean, Nigeria production has dropped to between 1.2 million to 1.3 million barrel per day. Ordinarily, there was a time that we are hitting about 2 million barrel per day in Nigeria. So we don't even have enough production, which is why we also come down to the issue of insecurity. Yes, I think people derive so much, everything boils down to corruption. Yes, I think people derive so much pleasure in stealing us blind. Most of the crude are being stolen on a daily basis. And we have security agencies who are supposed to do the needful by making sure that this happen. We have gone as far as engaging a private individual to secure these pipelines and making sure Nigeria is paying billions and billions of naira on a daily basis. But you still see this thing. So it takes the political will within government to be able to, if the president wants this thing to stop today, it will stop, because government knows those behind this sabotage, they know those stealing this money and the likes. Look at what came out from the Interpol yesterday. When the Interpol at their meeting yesterday stated that thousands and thousands of dollars are being being shipped out of Nigeria on a daily basis, and that they know some of these people. So that you and I don't have dollars. Anyway, if you get to, but me I don't get. So, so when you have such things, then you realize that we are really in this. But I hope that this works out, and it will go a long way to be able to solve some of this problem. Because if we get, you see what was said, they say about we'll be saving about $7.9 billion on a yearly basis by just selling crude in naira to local refineries. That to me is a welcome development, but how that is going to work out is what we are yet to see.
Okay, so the president has signed the minimum wage into law. Will it have a very significant impact on our economy or not?
Well, whatever is fine. In as much as it does not impact the pocket of an average Nigerian, that is the issue for me. It's not just what Nigerians need is a living wage, not minimum wage. You can get a minimum wage, but if your minimum wage, you have a take-home that cannot take you to the bus stop instead of taking you home, then there's a problem. As I said earlier on, I talked about, I said, if somebody, and let's even ask somebody in 7,000 naira, how much is the mudu of gari? How much is a mudu of rice? How much is pepper? How much is tomato? How much is condiment? Some people have been living without. You remember when we were in secondary school, when you used to say, give me rice, and remember now? Yeah, you remember when you say, you say, let me put this in, no, just give me rice. People are eating without the necessary proteins. So, if the government can be able to put all the necessary things in place, 70,000 naira may be enough for certain people. If you know that your transportation is not going to, if you know that the cost of food items comes down, because those are the issues that need to be addressed. Nigerians cannot feed themselves. Cost of food item is so high. If it's brought down by making sure that the government do the needful, by making sure that people can go back to their farms, making sure that they are secured, nobody is going to kill them, and we engage so much in agriculture, we spend so much. Some of this money that we are wasting on palliatives and unnecessary can be channeled into serious mechanized farming. And we are going to use so much that Nigeria has the capacity of feeding itself and even exporting more to other parts of the world. So we cannot even, we are just an elephant with clay. Nigeria is now an elephant with clay feet. It's so terrible. That is how bad the situation is. So it's not about signing 70,000 naira as minimum wage. The fact is that what Nigerians live is a living wage. If it's 70,000 naira, but let them be able to go to market and be able to purchase food items that they can eat. That is the issue. So government should be addressing the issue of food. What we need now is a total revolution in the area of food. Revolution area of food. And once we can be able to do that, then we can feed our populace, we can have enough to feed. So whether it's 70,000, 80,000, or don't forget that this will not be reviewed until the next 3 years.
Okay, but there was something scary about air travel, but the Minister of Aviation, according to report, Keyamo, has directed suspension of NAMA's 800% charge hike. There was this anticipated hike from NAMA, and it was also anticipated that if it comes, that means that air travel will even be worse than it is right now. Right now, it's difficult to travel by air, even though it's like the safest means of transportation, right, in Nigeria. But if it had gone up 800%, that would have been really, really crazy. He has reversed it now. But I don't know the reason why they would have hiked it 800% if it has been met, and if it has not been met, whether this is even a good news for the aviation industry.
Well, the minister said he's putting it on hold. It's not like it has been totally cancelled. You know that everything is on hold, just like the one with the telecom companies yesterday, and they continue to ask yourself, what is wrong with us? Nigerians are planning to go on protest, and somebody just wake up one day and just say, all the lines that are linked to me should be bad and should be blocked. I've done my own name linked to my phones about 3-4 times, and they still went ahead to ban me from making calls or receiving calls. Then somebody just wake up just about 72 hours to the protest and now say they banned all this. And you saw what happened, the mayhem all over. That is where the protest would have started. if they don't come, if nobody say they can't get sense about that thing. Now, yes, now, because you've already seen what people are doing. So people are already protesting at most of the telecom company offices and rest of them, pulling down their pens and rest of them. It will be worse today, but thank God, common sense prevailed. Then back to the issue you raised. Now, 800%, I don't know why the minister did that. I will tell you that air transportation is so expensive now. I just came back from Port Harcourt last week. One-way ticket from Port Harcourt to Lagos, I paid 176,000 naira. Just one-way ticket, not two-way. So you can imagine that I must have paid over 350 for a return ticket just going to Port Harcourt. That's a 1 hour journey. So with this 800% that being envisaged, now you are going to Abuja, the least flight you can get is about 250,000 naira. So if you are doing a return, about 300,000 naira. So how will Nigeria be able to go? The road is not safe enough for anybody to move. If you just look at the comparative advantage and what people do like this, well, I have to pay this 150,000 or 170,000. Because if I go on road and I get kidnapped and they start asking for 10 million naira, so what are you talking about? It's not even paying the ransom that they pay. There are instances that people pay ransom and they still get killed. So it's the high level of insecurity. So what we should be doing is that making sure that, one, we get most of this aviation, because most of this aviation, these airlines pay for most of what they use in dollars, like aviation jet A1, and most of them are imported. It is only Dangote that have started. So if we can be able to feed them properly through locally and make sure that they can get these products locally, I'm sure the airfare will come down. And other aspects, the president, the minister have given a directive that the 800% charge should be reduced. And even the airlines came out that if that has been implemented, then that's practically the end of airline industry. We don't just join. There are services that Nigerians are supposed to join, no matter how remote it is. Subsidy, so many things that need to be subsidized. There is nothing that is practically not subsidized in other parts of the world. Other parts of the world subsidize energy, they subsidize food, they subsidize even the bank. You remember what happened during the meltdown in the US when during the COVID, that the government had to give loans to the aviation sector, give them not even bail, it was called bailout. When it also happened in the energy, they gave out also some kind of subsidy so that to be able to retain that. So ask yourself as a Nigerian, what do you gain as a Nigerian? What is it in Nigeria? The only thing that have not been subsidized, will be subsidized very soon, is the air that we breathe. So that will not be subsidized, that will be taken, subsidy taken off, is the air that, because sooner than later, we may be tasked for breathing in Nigeria.
Airfare that 3 years ago was 20,000 naira from Calabar to Lagos. Yes, Port Harcourt to Lagos and all that was just for between 20 and 25,000 naira. It's now
at the point it peaked at 50,000 naira. But the next time you move, it was 100%.
It's terrible. Well, let's hope that one day we'll get to that El Dorado, but let's hope also that we don't have to go to the streets to fight all the time before our voices can be heard. We'll get to that point where it's a true democracy, because democracy, as far as I'm concerned, is the ability of people to get their voices heard. You say something, you have an opinion, and you let the government know. You're angry about something, you say it, and they listen to you. That's why there's representation. It is not in building roads and in building houses, because any government can do that. Even a dictatorship can do that as well. I'm sure that they're building roads and houses and everywhere else in Afghanistan and all that. It doesn't have to be a democracy for people to do that. It's representation and hearing your voice all the time. But this is where we'll wrap up, Mr. Nwandu. Thank you so much for being a part of our program this morning. As usual, we're glad that you were able to make it.
If you build road and you don't have human beings to use it, then it's useless. So the first thing is to make sure that you have people living to be able to enjoy some of these facilities that you are talking about. Have a wonderful day, my brother.
You too.
God bless you.
You too. Okay, we've been reviewing the papers and seeing what the headlines are. We've been talking with Mr. Chris Nwandu, a member of the arbitrators in the UK, and we're going to take a short break now. When we return, we'll be looking at Tinubu orders NNPC to sell crude to Dangote refinery in Naira, and let's see what advantage that will bring to our economy. Stay with us.
Picture this. You're sitting at a table, ready to indulge in a mouth-watering meal. Stop. For many of us, it is hard to resist the temptation, especially when it comes to enjoying a juicy beef dish. But have you ever stopped to think about the impact of your food choices on the greater good? Our food choices have a great impact on others. The beef industry is one of the leading contributors to deforestation. As trees are cleared to make way for cattle ranching, it not only disrupts the delicate balance of ecosystems, but also contributes to climate change. We can make a difference with our choices. It does not mean we all have to become vegans overnight. Imagine enjoying fish and poultry a few times a week, indulging in beef just once a month, and filling our plates with plenty of plant-based goodness. Every little bit counts, and even small reductions in our intake can make a huge impact on the climate. By making smarter food choices, we're not only taking care of ourselves, but also the planet we call home. Remember, the choices we make today lead to a better tomorrow.
Who has the right of way? Nigerian roads come with a lot of chaos. The chaos is caused by a combination of drivers, motorcycle and tricycle riders, pedestrians, and sellers who all claim the right of way. The chain of right of way holders in Nigeria is hierarchical, and car and motor drivers are at the top of the chain with pedestrians at the bottom. Car or motor drivers believe that they always have the right of way regardless, and motorcycle and tricycle riders don't even have any regard for who has the right of way. For fear of accidents and their lives, pedestrians have learned to cower. When a collision occurs, the question of who has the right of way is on the lip of all concerned as they try to figure out who is guilty. The law doesn't grant anyone the right of way, but you yield it to other road users under these circumstances. At a yield sign,
Thanks for staying with us. Now, President Bola Tinubu has instructed the Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPC, to sell crude oil to Dangote Refinery and other new refineries in Naira. The decision announced by Special Advisor Bayo Ononuga aims to stabilize both fuel pump prices and the dollar-naira exchange rate. The Federal Executive Council has approved this policy, starting with Dangote Refinery, which needs 15 cargoes of crude oil annually at a cost of $13.5 billion. NNPC will supply 4 of these cargoes. The new arrangement involves offering the 450,000 barrels designated for domestic use in Naira to Nigeria refineries, with Dangote Refinery as the initial pilot. The exchange rate for these transactions will be fixed, and Afrexim Bank, along with other Nigerian banks, will facilitate the trade, removing the need for international letters of credit and reducing dollar payment. Our guest to discuss this with us this morning is Mr. Bola Bolawole, a veteran journalist and public affairs analyst. Good morning and welcome to the program, sir.
Good morning, my brother. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, finally, we've heard that Dangote will now be buying crude in Naira. Let's hear your opinion or your take on this. What effect will this have, really, on our economy?
Yeah, thank you very much. That is the first ice that has to be broken on this matter. Dangote wanted to be buying crude in Naira, but the government was the IOC, that is the International Oil Companies, wanted to sell in dollars. And their argument was that they paid the signature fees in dollars, all the equipment, all the exploration, processing, and whatever, everything was denominated in dollars. So they couldn't sell in Naira, and they were selling to their contract partners in dollars. So why should they now sell in Naira? Because Nigeria was not collecting money from them in Naira. But now the government has decided that its own share of the crude oil that is produced there will now be sold in Naira. So let's get it right. It's not the IOC that will be selling crude to Dangote and the other refineries in Naira. No, those ones will not do. Their own part of their own portion of the oil, that the crude oil that is produced there, they will continue to sell to their buyers in dollars. But Nigeria will also sell part of its own crude oil, because it is a JVC arrangement, joint venture arrangement between Nigeria and the oil producing companies. Maybe Nigeria has about 60%, some 55 or what percentage of oil that is produced. Now, out of Nigeria's own share, 450,000 barrels per day had been set aside for local consumption. It is that 450,000 barrels that have been set aside for local consumption that will now be sold. Not all the crude oil that Nigeria is entitled to. If Nigeria sells all the crude oil it's entitled to in Naira to Dangote and the other refineries, we will not have anything to sell in dollars. We will not be able to earn dollars. So it's just a portion. Assuming that Nigeria produces 1.6 million barrels per day, and that Nigeria's share of that 1.6 may be 800 or 900,000 barrels. So 450 out of that will be set aside, that have been set aside for local consumption. will now be sold to the oil companies in naira, but the remaining percentage will now be sold. Nigeria will continue to sell that percentage in dollars to its contract partners. And don't also forget that these 450,000 that have been set aside will not be given to Dangote alone. Dangote is one of the oil refineries that have come online. There were some other modular refineries, like about 4, 5, or 6 of them, that are also raring to go. So they will share out of these 450,000 barrels of oil that Nigeria will now be selling in naira. So all the 450,000 will not go to Dangote. It will go to all the other refineries. And don't also forget that Dangote's needs is 650,000 barrels per day. 650,000 barrels per day. The 450,000 that have been set aside to be sold in naira now, even if it is given to Dangote fully, cannot meet the needs of Dangote. So Dangote will still need to source for crude oil elsewhere. And I am sure you know that wherever he goes to source for crude oil, whether in Brazil or in the US or wherever, he is going to pay dollar in those areas. Those people are going to collect naira from him. And like you have just read out, his needs cannot be fully met. He needs about 15 cargoes, and Nigeria is going to supply just 4. So he still has to look elsewhere for 11 cargoes. So people who are already shouting, Eureka, there's a solution, they should know that the solution is limited. The solution is limited. I bet is a positive sign that both the government, the NNPC, and Dangote, they are trying to reach an accommodation, reach an agreement. But that agreement has not fully solved the problem of Dangote, and it has not fully solved the problem of the other refineries. It has only gone a little bit. If somebody needs 15 and he gets only 4, you know, he still has 11 to go. That is more than double, or about triple what he still needs. So where is he going to source for those ones? And how much is it going to cost him in dollars? And what impact is it going to have on the local price of petrol product? Yeah. We have to see as we go on.
It's worrisome because I was going to ask how much impact that will be. 4 out of 15 is not very significant in number and all that. And now that we're talking about other refineries sharing out of the 450,000, which is not even enough for Dangote alone and all. So now we're at this point now where we're going to have or let me just cut it to the point that we're thinking about how the impact will be on our economy. Are you saying there is nothing that's going to come out of this?
Yeah, something is going to come out of it. There's going to be an impact. Depending on the agreement, we have not been told the agreement between the NNPC and Dangote refinery. What is the agreement? Now, 450,000 barrels of crude oil had been set aside for local consumption.
Now, my question, Mr. Bolawole, just a moment, Mr. Bolawole. Yes. The reason I was even asking is that, are we not doing what they call penny wise, pound foolish, when we say that if we do not have some crude to sell out, we will not earn foreign exchange, earn in dollars and all that? What is better to do? To have this crude sufficiently for our country to produce everything that we need here and export these finished products, and then to sell the crude oil to the other countries and have them produce all those things and sell back to us? What will be more beneficial to us? What will earn us more dollars? Because if you sell out crude, that means you're, the production of candles, Vaseline, other things that come out of crude oil will be produced by those countries and sent back to us. And even the oil that we are going to be using for aviation industry and our cars and all that will also be refined from other countries and sold back to us. Are we gaining more by doing that, or would gain more by producing here and doing everything in our country and exporting the end products? Can you hear me, Mr. Bolawole?
Yes, government has a lot of other obligations. Government will fund education, government will fund hospitals, government will pay salaries, government will build roads, government will fund security forces. So where is this money going to come from? If you give all the crude oil you produce to Dangote and the oil refineries, and then they refine it and they sell and they make profit, are you going to share profit with them? What profit are they going to give you? Are they going to give you profit in naira, or are they going to give you profit in dollars? It doesn't work like that. All the crude oil that is produced in this country cannot be given to the refineries. You have contract obligations. NNPC has contract obligations with some of the people it has been supplying this crude oil to for ages. We have contract agreements with companies in India, in every other places that must buy our crude oil. Some of these people, if you are not aware, some of these foods that we have not yet produced have been sold up front by the previous government of Muhammadu Buhari.
They're still selling in this government.
NNPC
is still selling in this government.
Yes, since this government came into, at least on one occasion now, this government had sold crude oil up front and collected dollars, and they were negotiating to sell another one the other time. So if you have sold, some of these crude that we are talking about had already been sold, and the money had been collected. It's like a worker who already collected his salary up front. So what he's doing now is just working for that salary. Nigeria has sold some of these crude oil that we are producing up front. They no longer belong to us. They belong to our creditors who have paid us, we have collected the money, and we have spent the money, whatever. And now we must fulfill that obligation by supplying them the crude oil. So all the crude we are producing now, they no longer belong to us. It's only a percentage of it, a fraction of it that belongs to us. It is that fraction that the government will now think about what do we give to local refineries because of the problem that we have at hand, and what do we have left to sell so that we can have money to run the government. The government must run. So, and it is not all crude oil, it is not all petrol. So there are a lot of other services that government must provide for. Our embassies abroad must run. You must send them money. Your ambassadors, other things, you must send them money. There will be meetings to attend, meetings of ECOWAS, meetings of AU, meetings of United Nations. You have meetings to attend. You must travel, and then you have salaries to pay. You have infrastructural deficits to meet up with. You have security issues. You must equip your army and things like that. So you have loans that you want to give students loans and things like that. So you must make money. And unfortunately for Nigeria, the place we are making all this money from is sale of crude oil. Crude oil accounts for about 80-something% of the money that we make. So if you now give all the crude oil to the refineries, what do you have left? What I think the government can do, which I think they are trying to do, is to increase production. Nigeria's production quota used to be 2.2, 2.4. But because of a lot of factors, one of which is crude oil theft. You must be hearing about oil theft. And you must also be hearing of the fact that the oil companies are complaining that Nigeria had not been reinvesting the money it was making from oil into the oil sector. We were just making the money and spending and squandering it. We were not investing enough money to discover new oil fields. So now the production has gone down. It went down up to below $1 million, 1 million barrels a day during Buhari. It is now that they are just trying to increase it. I understand that it's now hovering between 1.4 and 1.6. And out of this 1.4, between 1 and 1.6, about 50% of it is for the JVC partners, the oil companies. It's the remaining one that is our own. It is the one that is our own now that you must now find what to sell to make dollars, and you must also find what to give to the oil companies. So the solution will be when we are able to increase production, and it cannot be done overnight. because the oil companies are divesting and they are leaving this place. They are leaving because our government has not been making the right of the right level of investment, and because of insecurity in the country, insecurity in the oil sectors. You must understand that there was a time when there was this movement for Niger, movement of the Niger Delta people meant, and when they were hijacking expatriate oil workers, when they were sabotaging pipelines and things like that. All those things are contributed to all these oil companies going elsewhere, where the atmosphere is more favorable to them, where there is security. You can understand that the problem of insecurity in Nigeria has festered now, and it has even gone further than even the Niger Delta area. Everywhere in the country now, you have the problem of insecurity, of banditry, of Boko Haram, of Fulani harassment, of people being driven away from the farms, people being driven away from their homes, from villages, and things like that. So all those things have impacted on oil production in Nigeria, such that, and when you now add crude oil theft, at a point it was said that 70% of the oil that we are producing was being stolen. So you can imagine, so how much is left? So those are the problems. The problems are so deep-rooted. The problems are not problems that you can solve overnight. So, but a lot of people don't understand the nitty-gritty of why we are where we are because of decades of neglect, decades of corruption, decades of profligacy, making money and squandering the money. We can't see what the money has been spent on. It has not been spent on agriculture, it has not been spent in industrialization. You begin to ask yourself, all the debt we have amassed, where is the evidence? What did we spend all this money for? And all the crude oil we sold up front, all the loans we collected, where are they? What are they spent for? What are they spent for? And why are we in this situation? I think those are the problems that confront the nation at the moment.
Okay, just like a summary, what do you think the steps of Nigeria should be at this point? Because it's, even though we are not even sure that the Port Harcourt refinery will come up and Kaduna refinery and all other refineries will come up, you're talking about some modular refineries that will kickstart in a few days or a few months' time, or in a short while. It's going to be really a thing if it's going to be only 450,000 barrels that will be shared among all these refineries. If we have, let's say, 5 modular refineries and then there's Dangote and all that, it will still be like everything is being imported from outside, and which I don't even see how it makes any sense. We are producing oil, then importing crude from outside. It doesn't make sense to me. So what steps should the government put in place right now to make sure that we don't get to a point where we are lacking?
Yes, it makes sense if you want. Yes, it makes sense if you want. The problem. If we remove the problems that we have, how do we find ourselves here? How do we get out of it? And then we can find a solution. If we bring sentiments into it, you will discover that you will not be able to identify the problems. And for as long as you cannot identify the problems, you will not be able to propose solutions. Now, the 450,000 barrels per day that the government has pledged, let us hope they can get it. I am not sure. A lot of people are not sure that they can get it. It doesn't appear as if they have up to 450,000 barrels per day. That is their own portion. But if they do, and they can release 450 out of what they have made a sacrifice. That means that they have just little left to sell and make dollars. So if they have made that sacrifice, then the oil companies should also, the oil refineries should also make sacrifice. They should also know that this 450,000 barrels that has been released to them is supposed to be refined and sold locally. That was the amount that we projected that we were consuming locally. So if that projection is still standing, if we are still consuming 450,000, if the volume of oil consumption by Nigerian staff, if it has not increased, and if we can stem the tide of smuggling of all these refined products, because you know that smuggling is one of the problems. Even now that we have deregulated and we have increased fuel prices, our oil is still being, our petrol is still being smuggled across the border. So because it is still cheaper here now than it is there, because we are still subsidizing under the counter. So it is cheaper here than it is in Benin Republic, than it is in Cameroon. So they are still smuggling our oil, our petrol there. So when Nigerians say that they want to buy, we want petrol because I'm one of them. I want petrol. We want petrol. We want the price to come down. What you are saying is that you want us to add to the subsidy we are giving to our neighboring countries, because the more, like now we are buying fuel for, say, 700 or whatever. If you go across the border, they'll be selling for about 850 or 900 there. So so once the price comes down here, then people come here and get this fuel. Our people are the ones that will smuggle it across the border there to go and sell there and make profit. So this problem of fuel price is not as easy as people are saying, because the borders are porous. We are not able to control to police our borders. Our fuel continues to go there, so we continue to subsidize. And then the problem also is that when we say we are consuming 450,000 barrels per day, that's for Nigerians. You must now calculate what they are consuming in Benin Republic. You must now calculate what they are consuming in Niger Republic, what they are consuming in Cameroon. You must add it to what we are consuming here locally. That is what you have to provide for. That is the problem there. But if this 450 is released onto them, and they can refine it, and they can now decide, okay, government has done this for us, we are paying in Naira, so let us bring the price down. They can bring the price down. But I can assure you that the more they bring the price down, the more smuggling of the same product will increase. The more the products will cross the border to all these other countries, the more the 450,000 will not be adequate for us. We'll be back to square one. So the problem really is not just about do we get crude oil to Dangote. Even if we give the Dangote the 650,000 barrels that Dangote needs, you will still have the problem of smuggling of these products. You can imagine when our product is smuggled up to Benin Republic, up to Togo, up to Ghana and other places like that, is smuggling in Niger, in Cameroon and those places. So you want to also calculate the number of people there, the population that's relying on this our same product. You find that there is no barriers that you give that will be adequate. All right. So the problem is intertwined. But with this solution that they have provided, they may be on the way to ameliorating. I'm saying ameliorating, not solving. Ameliorating the problem, not completely solving it. To solve the problem is a lot of work has to be done, and we have to look beyond our borders before this problem can be fully solved.
Okay. Well, we'd like to thank you, Mr. Bola Bolawole, for coming on our program. This is where we'll have to drop it this morning. It's a pleasure having you on the show this morning.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We've been talking to Mr. Bola Bolawole, a veteran journalist and public affairs analyst, on the fact that it has been approved that Dangote refinery can now buy crude in Naira. We are going to take a short break, and when we return, we'll take our last hot topic. Stay with us.
My name is Adejokela Sisi. I'm the founder and creative director of Planet 3R. At Planet 3R, we convert textile and plastic waste into eco-friendly products. The motivation actually came from a rural community in Ibadan here. Whenever it rains, the whole place, people will not be able to go inside the community. If it rains overnight, people will not be able to go to school, they will not be able to go to work. Anytime the water now goes away, you now realize a lot of waste. And I was like, this is actually the root cause of this problem, improper waste management system. Then I look at it that, what can we do to solve this problem? And that was how I started using the weaving skill that I've acquired from my mom since I was 9 years old. Then I started using it to weave those waste to now make sure that we now convert them into beautiful items like bags, shoes, even clothing. I actually participated at Womenpreneur Season 3, that was 2021. One of the things I really gained at that time was business development. It's not just about the talent now or having to know how to convert the waste or having the idea, but to be able to put it into a successful business. I really appreciate what Access Bank is doing for entrepreneurs. Let us now say women now, because most of the time women don't really have much of these advantages. I love the fact that there's an initiative for women. I want to encourage you to make sure that you go and apply honestly. Your life will not remain the same again.
Being online has become a part of our every waking moment. From the moment we wake up in the morning till we hit the pillow at night, we are browsing, scrolling through social media, responding to messages. We live our lives online almost as much as we live it in reality. These anonymous interactions, like any other human interaction, comes with complexity and challenges. People get into civil discussions, debates, banter, and share with one another. With these interactions come disagreements, arguments, conflicts that can soon degenerate into trolling, bullying, and general unpleasantness. The discretion we employ in face-to-face interaction is further decreased online. In fact, according to psychologist Robert Sutton, disrespectful, demeaning, and downright mean-spirited behavior is worse than ever. This behavior is especially true of online discourse, which researchers describe as the online disinhibition effect. Stanford psychology professor John Sula in 2004 said, "The online disinhibition effect can cause people to act out in either a benign manner, wherein they overshare their personal information, or in a toxic manner, wherein they become abusive or threatening." "I am in my house, come and beat me" is a common saying online that alludes to the inaccessibility that emboldens even regular people to behave in less than civil ways online. Another factor responsible for this behavior, apart from anonymity and availability, is solipsistic introduction, a situation, according to Dr. Sula, where you don't have any physical cues associated with the person you're communicating with, and other person becomes just a voice in your head. As such, the people in your online conversations merely become characters in your imagination, formed by your own personal history and expectations. You might also hear his or her voice as your own, which makes you feel more comfortable with the other person and further lowers your inhibitions. As we have rules that guide our interactions in real life, unspoken rules need to be developed for our online interactions. Social media etiquette, or social mannerism simply put, means do's and don'ts for social media interactions. These etiquettes are also referred to as netiquettes. The term netiquette refers to all aspects of online communication, including email, instant messaging, social media, multiplayer gaming, and other forms of online communication. The main goal behind netiquette or mannerisms on social media is to treat others with respect and take care of intellectual property rights and associated implications. Personal information, images, or videos of anyone should not be shared without consent or mentioning credits where due. Except we seek to change such behaviors, it will pervade. Here are some social media netiquettes. When sending a DM, be polite and go straight to the point. When responding to posts, even if you disagree, be careful not to use condescending and insultive words. Take a 5-minute pause before you post any comment. Don't comment on topics that people tend to be passionate about. Don't respond to insults or hateful language. Don't say to people online what you won't have the audacity to say to them in person. Avoid excessive tagging of people. Ask before tagging people. Although it may seem inoffensive, tagging a friend or acquaintance on social media without their permission could in many ways cause problems for that person. Good social media etiquette means you should always request for permission before tagging anyone. Post only flattering pictures of other people. Apply the billboard test. Assume that everyone in the world can and will see everything you post. So if it's not billboard worthy, don't post it. Give credit where it's due. Don't post other people's photos or quotes without clear attribution. This means no screen grabs even if you have the best intentions. Instead, use a repost app to properly credit others for your own content. Think of the future you. Your taste will change, as will your sense of humor, but your photos will live on forever. Use caution when posting. Don't take screenshots of other people's private moments that they shared with you in confidence. Censor yourself. You might treat your Facebook or Twitter accounts as diaries. Don't share everything with your readers. Some things are meant to be kept private. Sex education is just becoming more popular in Nigerian culture. But an aspect we often neglect is sexual health communication. How comfortably do people communicate their sexual health challenges with health workers when the need arises?
People have different personality types, but generally, people are usually very shy when it comes to talking about like their sexual health. They have complaints that have to do with reproductive, like that have to do with the genitals or something related to sex, you know. They're usually like, there's this sense of shame, there's this sense of embarrassment. I usually look at it this way. Number one, there are many people that did not come.
Can you remember the last time you were at the doctor's and you wanted to complain about a sexual health challenge? How comfortable were you? What tactic did you employ to explain your predicament to the doctor?
There are people that come, but when they come, they're not going to say their complaints because when they got to the hospital, they choke, in quotes. Like, they just feel like, no, I can't say this thing because they feel so embarrassed about it. And the people that don't come, what they do is they talk with a friend that they feel that, hey, this person is going to understand and is not going to judge me. And so the people that come and they choke, they'll just tell you another complaint. So that's not the reason why they came to the hospital. So they'll just tell you something else, like something that is not related to their, and to the main complaint that, you know, brought them to the hospital. And one thing I noticed is that while they are telling that complaint, they're actually assessing the doctor. Like, am I really going to say my main complaint? Like, they want to know how this person is. Is this person going to judge me? Is this person a freak?
We're glad to know you're still there, and this is the Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. We said we're coming back to talk about the protest that is scheduled for 1st of August to the 10th of August. There's more momentum as youths begin to protest ahead of August 1. Nigerian youths in Niger State have begun protests on the Abuja-Kaduna road ahead of a nationwide hunger protest scheduled for August 1 to 12 under the hashtag #EndBadGovernment. This comes after Niger State Governor Mohammed Bago stated that the state's youths would not protest, describing them as peace-loving. Protesters were seen carrying placards with messages like "Enough is enough" and "Hardship is unbearable" and chanting anti-government songs. Soldiers intervened to calm the protesters, asking them to wait until the official protest date. Despite assurances from local organizers, the governor's announcement of food palliatives to prevent protests, some youths still took to the streets. The Niger State Police Command confirmed the protest, stating that law enforcement quickly dispersed the demonstrators. There were no roadblocks and the area is reported to be calm. Okay, protest is gathering momentum everywhere, and we hear that even international media is beaming satellites on Nigeria to see what is going to happen. Remember that before the 2014 election, it was projected that Nigeria was going to split into a lot of federations, a lot of countries, because we couldn't stay together beyond 2014. But here we are, still one indivisible nation. And countries are saying this time around it might just happen that a lot of people will break away and there's going to be war, there's going to be civil unrest and all that. They're predicting that for Nigeria. But we are Nigerians. We are the ones who know what is good for us and what is not good for us, and we are peace-loving people. However, I'd like to appeal again, like I've always said, that when people are in government, they should be guarded, the way they say things, the way they come out to make pronouncements and all that. People are saying they are hungry and they want to register their grievances by going on the streets to carry placards and say, hey, do this XYZ. I'm not sure they're going to say you must do it that same day, but they want to tell you some of the things that they want you to know and give you a warning that it might escalate if it continues this way. And then you borrow a leaf from there, get schooled from there, and then you know what you're supposed to do. And then every governor is coming out to say, people in my state will not protest. People in my state cannot protest. People in my state must not protest. That's what all the governors are saying. Some even are saying, like in the southeast, the governors came and say, Ndigbo will not be part of the protest. Like people are not hungry in that land. I'm not saying I support protest, that it has to happen and all that. Nobody does, because it shouldn't even get to this point in the first place. But I think it will be better and it will douse more tension if the governors, the president, and everybody in government talks in a way that the people will understand that they know what they are even passing through. How can a governor come to say that why are Nigerians protesting? How can someone from the presidency come to say why are Nigerians protesting? It is labeled end bad governance. It is also labeled hunger protest. And you're still asking why Nigerians are protesting. You do not know why Nigerians are protesting. That is, to a lot of people, an insult. So we should be careful what we say as people who are at the helm of affairs, people that others are looking up to, people that should be making decisions for us, people that are perceived to be sitting on our own destinies and all that. We should be careful, because if you say that this country is moving in the right direction, the president is doing well, and then the average man on the street is not seeing what well is being done by the president, even though the president may really be doing well, then the next thing to think about is that it is because you are seeing that wellness that you're talking about, and he is not seeing the wellness. And so it will fuel more anger. So we should be careful. That's just a note of warning. If the police will come out and say, we're going to deal with you, the army comes out and says, we're going to deal with you, the governors come out and say, we're going to deal with you, and some people who are perceived to be paid people will come out and say, you don't protest in our state, and all those kinds of things. Those are things that, instead of correcting what is wrong, will now fuel more anger in the people. It shouldn't be said. So whoever is responsible should rein in these people, hold them and say, don't say this thing. We heard that one child of the president came and gave conditions and warned the people that they must not protest. We know that a bag of rice for 150,000 will not affect the president's daughter, so she shouldn't be talking. I'm not saying as a Nigerian she doesn't have the right to say one or two things, but we should know some things will poke the embers of the fire of the people. So we should be careful how we say it. We should be diplomatic enough to say the things that we need to say, but there are some people who can say you're stupid, and then you'll be smiling because of the way they said it. Let's be careful how we make utterances and all that. Not everybody is seeing the direction the country is going. Not everybody is seeing the tomorrow that people in government might be seeing. Not everybody is seeing whatever wellness there is in our country. Not everybody is buying the story that the president is doing well. The president may mean well, the president may really be doing well, but how much of this are the people seeing? That is the question. So when people say they want to protest and they give you a date, or it's like armed robbers saying that they're going to come to your house on a particular date, it's either you have the chance to fortify yourself so that when they come you can meet them fire for fire, or you provide the things in your house that if they come they can get and let you leave. Maybe there's money they want, you want to keep the money in your house, when they come you give them, or you run away from your house. You have so many options, and that means that person means well for you. So now a date has been set for a peaceful demonstration. I think that's my opinion. I was not sent to do that. Like we say in Nigeria, who sent you? Nobody sent me. But I think that what we should be talking about here is to highlight the things that government is trying to do, what the things that government has done already, and what we can hope to see in the nearest future, so that the tensions could be doused. Because at this moment, whatever you say, my lecturer used to say, meanings are in people, not in words. You might say something and you mean well, but it will be misinterpreted and taken out of context, and then they will use that against you and do what they're supposed to do. I don't want a protest. I want to be able to come to work and do my work, read my news, present my program, just meet with my friends and family and everybody. We should be in peace. I don't want a protest. I don't want something that will disrupt the activities that I've been doing, my routine for the day. And I'm sure a lot of people are of the same opinion. We don't want protests. But when you're talking, whether you're a governor, whether you're somewhere, so long as you're someone who is perceived as not suffering enough like the people, the ordinary men on the street, please be careful what you say. And for those people who are protesting against the protest, if it is peaceful now that you're protesting, please, when the other people want to protest as well, because it's possible that they will still protest, when they want to protest as well, also give them the chance they have given you now to protest, to do your own protest, so that it will not be hijacked, as we have been told that it will be hijacked. There's a possibility of protesting in Nigeria in peace. So if you can do it in peace, let others also do it in peace. And let the police, now that they have promised us that they are going to take care of protesters, actually take care of these protesters, and let them fish out those people who are trying to foment trouble, because according to them, they have already had credible intelligence that there are people trying to disrupt this protest and hijack it for their personal gains. If you know these people, please arrest them now. Don't wait till the 1st of August before you arrest them. And let me also appeal to the traditional institution that has decided to put Oro Festival during the time of protest. I think the timing is terrible. I know that traditional institution is independent and all that. Some people would say you cannot stop tradition just because something is going to happen in our country. Tradition must be held. But I think the timing is terrible. And even if your intentions are good, people will still see it as the Oro Festival being used as a political tool right now. So I think you should shift it a little bit. It is too late to say hold it now before the protest, but I think you should shift it so that there will not be a clash of interest, because when that comes, there are people who are just waiting for the Oro Festival to come and let them do their worst, and the Oro Festival is also going to show their might as, you know, this is a traditional thing and we have to do it. It's our land and all that. Please shift it a little bit further than the time of the protest, so that there will not be a clash, because if there is a clash, it will not be to the interest of anybody. No matter what tradition is supposed to hold people together in unity, in love, make people abide by the law and be disciplined and all that. So please shift your Oro Festival, because the timing is very, very bad. I don't know how rigid the laws of Oro are. I don't know what it means to even celebrate the Oro Festival. We don't have it where I come from. I just know a little bit about it, but I think it is possible to shift it. And if that is true, please shift it away from the time that this march or protest is going to take place. We also heard that the NANS, that is the National Association of Nigerian Students, is planning for a walk of peace during the same time that the hunger protest is going to take place. I think it was bad. They should never happen at the same time, because that might bring trouble to us. We don't want trouble. We just want to make our voices heard. Whether they are the bad voices or the good voices, let someone hear us. That's what Nigerians are saying. Well, 1st of August is going to come. We pray that it's going to be peaceful, and then we're still going to go about our normal duties, and those to whom the messages are directed will listen and do the needful. Well, this is Wishing Nigeria Peace from here on out. And this is where we draw the curtain on the program this morning. Thank you for being a part of it, and stay blessed. Let's do it again tomorrow. My name is Nyamuguru Agaji.
An African girl somewhere is sitting at home, accompanied by dreams that seem so far away. Africa is one of the continents with the highest out-of-school percentage in education, and girls are at an early disadvantage. The sub-Saharan Africa records about 18 million out-of-school girls. This gender gap extends to the tech space, with a projection of only a 33% global female workforce representation in tech firms for 2022. Let us help change the stories and numbers. Africa Agility's Project Train a Girl campaign is working to help train African girls in tech. You can donate as little as $2 or 2,000 Naira to help a girl in tech get her heels in the door. Visit www.africaagility.rallyup.com/PTAG to donate.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
It's also equally confessed.
Now 500 naira they collect them. If you no talk, then go beat you. Now 2,500 and they pay.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on Plus TV Africa.
True Nigerians, Heroes of Our Time, a program where we celebrate Nigerians as a people and Nigeria as a country.
It's uniquely different from every other TV program. Why? Because it's a celebration of Nigerians, both at home and in diaspora, who have achieved in their various fields. A celebration of patriotism, hard work, role models. It's all about Nigerians as a people and Nigeria as a country. My name is Zaki Adze. Join me every Thursday, 9 p.m. and a repeat broadcast every Sunday, 12:30 p.m. on this station to celebrate true Nigerians, heroes of our time.
What we see and envy in other countries, we don't even we don't pay enough attention to how it is done. So for example, people are always talking about, oh, we should tell African stories. I smile.
I'm one of those who says that.
I think that we should talk to ourselves first before we're even worried about what people are thinking about us. We overvalue the opinion of other people. We don't value ourselves. We don't value our people.
But isn't that why we should tell our own story?
To ourselves.
Yes, first.
You understand?
Yes.
So we won't be talking about telling African story because we didn't wake up this morning and think first and foremost I'm African. I think I'm Nigerian.
That's what I'm saying.
You understand? So in Nigeria,
yes,
first and foremost, we need to talk to ourselves. How do we talk to ourselves? What do we say to ourselves?
What's our reality?
So what does reality mean?
Reality.
And what lens are we looking at reality from?
Agaji, and this is the news brief. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has signed the 70,000 naira new minimum wage bill into law following a disagreement between the government, private sector and organized labor. The tripartite committee submitted two figures to the president, with the government and private sector offering 62,000 naira and organized labor demanding 250,000 naira. Tinubu agreed to pay 70,000 naira from the initial offer of 62,000 naira. The Federal Executive Council meeting took place at the State House in Abuja.
This is minimum. This is not maximum. Any employer that has a capacity can pay as much as you want, but no Nigerian worker will offer services and be paid anything less than 70,000 from today. That is the implication of this act. It applies all over the nation. And we're excited that this is happening at a time like this through President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the man who cares for the Nigerian workers.
In addition to signing the Northeast Development Commission Act, the Northwest Development Commission Act, the Southeast Development Commission Act, this has never happened in Nigeria. So I think this movement from 30 to 70 and reducing the negotiation years is clear demonstration of a commitment to redirect, refocus, and reposition Nigeria for greatness. I think we commend.
Niger State youths have stormed the Abuja-Kaduna Expressway to protest the country's rising cost of living and the removal of fuel subsidies. They chanted anti-government songs and displayed placards with messages like "Fuel subsidy must be back," "Stop anti-masses policies," "Enough is enough," "We are not slaves in our country," and "Hardship is unbearable." The protest comes 3 days ahead of the scheduled start date for a nationwide strike on August 1, which has seen the government and stakeholders plead for calm and patience from the President Bola Tinubu-led administration. The government has warned that the protest could be hijacked by hoodlums, escalate into violence. The Inspector General of Police, IGP Kayode Egbetokun, has directed police top brass to protect intending participants of the planned End Bad Governance protest slated for August 1 to 10, 2024. This was contained in the letter the IGP wrote to the request, or this was contained in a letter by the IGP to the request of human rights lawyer Ebunolu Adeborowa. Adeborowa, a senior advocate of Nigeria, had on July 26, 2024 written to the IGP to provide police coverage for protesters. The senior lawyer had written the IGP on behalf of the Take It Back movement, one of the groups planning the End Bad Governance protest in August. The IGP, in his response letter today, directed senior police officers to attend to the request of the senior lawyer. The IGP also requested to have a meeting with Adeborowa in Abuja on Tuesday, July 30, 2024, to deliberate further on his request. The protest against economic hardship, which is gaining traction on social media, has been scheduled to be held across all states of the Federation as well as the nation's capital in August. Prices of food and basic commodities have gone through the roof in the last months as Nigerians battle one of the country's worst inflation rates and economic crisis sparked by government's twin policies of petrol subsidy removal and unification of forex windows. Meanwhile, President Tinubu has ordered the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited (NNPCL) to sell crude oil to Dangote Refinery in Naira. Zak Adedeji, Executive Chairman, Federal Inland Revenue Service, stated this today at the Federal Executive Council meeting in Abuja. The development is coming amid the dispute between the 650,000 barrels per day Dangote Refinery and NNPCL, Nigeria Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, and other regulators in Nigeria's oil and gas sector. According to Adedeji, this will ensure the stability of the pump price of refined fuel and the dollar-naira exchange rate.
Effective immediately that NNPC get engaged with local refineries, and we are starting that with Dangote Refinery, that the sales of crude oil to Dangote Refinery will be denominated in Naira, and also the sales of refined product from Dangote Refinery to marketer and distributors also should be conducted in Naira. Today, you may be aware that we spend roughly 30 to 40% of our foreign exchange today on importation of PMS that we consume. And in monetary terms, monthly, we spend roughly $660 million in these exercise. And if you annualize that, that one will give us $7.92 billion pressure that we have. With this approval today through FEC, led by Mr. President, this has reduced by minimum of 90%. As a pilot, the council has approved that a settlement bank, which in this instance is Afri-Exim, should be the lead arranger. That will be the settlement bank, at least today, between NNPC and Dangote Refinery.
The federal government has set a deadline of May 29, 2025 for the completion of the 375.9-kilometer Abuja-Kaduna-Zaria-Kano Highway project. The Minister of Works, David Umahi, spoke at the site handover of the 38-kilometer dual carriageway section of the road to the Dangote Group in Zuba, Abuja. The project will be undertaken by Dangote, Julius Berger, and Bua construction companies. Umahi stated that the event also involved handing over the 38-kilometer dual carriageway to the Dangote Group and the launch of the Operation Free Our Roads project. He revealed that the project cost has been revised to 888 billion naira, which is 640 billion naira less than Julius Berger's initial estimate for the 3-lane road.
So now we are at the section of Beja, and it's the last section, Beja. Beja has a remaining 82 kilometer by 2, and that is at Kaduna axis, and they also have about 6 kilometer at the, and we're very happy with areas that have completed. However, we do not want this road, Abuja to Kano, to last beyond May 29th, 2025. So we're going to be discussing with Beja, and let me commit that all your outstanding certificates will be able to pay you within 1 week. We just launched Operation, Free Our Routes, which means that contractors working in all the routes, highways, must, as a matter of urgency, get palliative materials to fill the road so that no vehicle will fall on the road.
On day 2 of the 2024 Global Tech Africa Conference in Lagos, experts underscored the importance of understanding and harnessing the potential of artificial intelligence (AI) to drive economic growth across various sectors in Africa. Love Oyedokun reports. We'll bring you that report in subsequent bulletins. In the meantime, in a bid to provide trauma care and psychological support to survivors of sexual and gender-based violence in the Kaduna community, International Alert, in collaboration with the Ministry of Human Services and Social Development, has trained community first responders, security agencies, safe space facilitators, the State Human Rights Commission, and community leaders. The training focused on psychosocial first aid (PFA) skills to support survivors in the Juji and Maraban Rido communities of Chikun local government area. Esther Olamidari, the training facilitator, stresses the importance of more agencies, organizations, and individuals receiving psychological first aid (PFA) training.
Not equipped with the right skill to provide the care needs of the survivors. This training aims to bring the network of first responders together so that when there's an event of SGBV, collectively and within the referral pathways, survivors get the required services that they need within the referral pathways, ensuring that survivors are not exposed to further harm. Because when a case is reported and it goes to the wrong person, for instance, it jeopardizes justice, it jeopardizes the mental health also of the survivors. So this training is bringing all stakeholders together to ensure that we have a uniform referral pathways, collecting data, ensuring that even while we collect information from survivors, we respect their right to privacy, we enhance their dignity as well as their safety.
Participants say the training was highly relevant and expanded their ability to offer professional PFA support to SGBV survivors without causing undue distress.
More people should hear and know how to administer psychological first aid, especially for sexual and gender-based violence survivors. These survivors go through a lot of trauma, and if their first meeting point, wherever it is, they render or administer psychological first aid to them, then the beginning of their healing has started. So I feel like more agencies, more organizations, more people should be equipped with the skills for psychological first aid. And it is important to also put them stable to be able to access other helps. And from that point, know what other helps that will be important for them.
Plans on how to, in case anything should administer the psychological first aid. It's not something that only trained personnel can do, even us too. Even be it not in the hospital, I can administer it anywhere. Maybe the place is secured, safer for the survivor.
So I'm very happy because this training, it helped me a lot. Back to my community, I will do step-down training for the down ones to know the importance of breaking silence. If they see anything, they talk. If they have any problem, they should report. So
in a groundbreaking collaboration, the Taraba State Government and the Nigerian Army have united to combat climate change and address pressing environmental issues by promoting a healthy ecosystem through large-scale tree planting initiatives. This partnership aims to enhance environmental conservation, protection, management, resuscitation, and rehabilitation across the state, a critical step following years of environmental degradation. Notably, this marks the first time the Taraba State Government has fostered a civil-military relationship with focus on environmental conservation. Our correspondent Jude Nuhu Gundale filed in this report.
Taraba State, like other regions in Nigeria, faces a range of climate change challenges, including flooding, soil erosion, pollution, deforestation, desert encroachment, drought, and illegal mining activities. In response, the state government has launched the Greening Taraba initiative, which aims to plant 5 million trees across the state. Brigadier General Kingsley Uwa, the 6th Brigade Commander and Commander Sector 3 Operation Wellstroke, expressed the Nigerian Army's commitment to supporting this initiative and addressing the humanitarian and environmental concerns that threaten the local ecosystem.
Our environment has experienced the adverse effects of global warming and other extreme climate changes, such as drought, effects of rainfall, and extreme temperatures, among others. These effects have negatively affected both humans and animals and have also contributed to some disasters such as flooding, hurricanes, tornadoes, heat waves, wildfires, and pollution. Today, 6th Brigade is joining the good people of the state to key into the laudable initiative to green our environment through this symbolic tree planting campaign.
Governor Abu Kafis, represented at the occasion, reiterated his administration's dedication to tackling climate change challenges through proactive actions to ensure justice.
Through the Greening Taraba initiative, we are committed to protect and sustain our environment. Today, we are going to embark on this tree planting. I urge every organization to embark on massive and aggressive tree planting in Taraba State, because we cannot survive without the environment.
The state government plans to plant 5 million tree seedlings across its 16 local government areas. Chairman of ARGAN in the state assured that these planting efforts will be sustained in order to exceed this initial target, given the severe impact of climate change being felt across the state.
I want to assure you, sir, that all the 16 local government chairmen are working assiduously to ensure that tree planting campaign is done in all the local government in collaboration with Ministry of Environment.
The government has pledged to continue the Greening Taraba initiative until positive results are achieved, restoring the state to its former status as nature's gift to the nation.
We'll now take a commercial break and we'll be back for the rest of the news.
My name is Adejoke Lasisi. I'm the founder and creative director of Planet 3R. At Planet 3R, we convert textile and plastic waste into eco-friendly products. The motivation actually came from a rural community in Ibadan here. Whenever it rains, the whole place, people will not be able to go inside the community. If it rains overnight, people will not be able to go to school, they will not be able to go to work. Anytime the water now goes away, you now realize a lot of waste. And I was like, this is actually the root cause of this problem, improper waste management system. Then I look at it that, what can we do to solve this problem? And that was how I started using the weaving skill that I've acquired from my mom since I was 9 years old. Then I started using it to like weave those waste to now make sure that we now convert them into beautiful items like bags, shoes, even clothing. I actually participated at Womenpreneur Season 3, that was 2021. One of the things I really gained at that time was business development. You know, it's not just about the talent now or having to know how to convert the waste or having the idea, but to be able to put it into a successful business. I really appreciate what Access Bank is doing for entrepreneurs. Let us now say women now, because most of the time women don't really have much of these advantages. I love the fact that there's an initiative for women. I want to encourage you to make sure that you go and apply honestly. Your life will not remain the same again.
We now move to other parts of Africa. South Africa's ruling African National Congress ANC has expelled former President Jacob Zuma for leading a rival group in the May elections following disciplinary proceedings initiated earlier this month. Zuma, who remains popular despite past scandals, was suspended by the ANC in January after endorsing the newly formed Umkhonto weSizwe MK party. MK secured 14.5% of the votes in the May 29 elections, placing third. Zuma now leads MK, which has 58 seats in the National Assembly. The ANC received 40% of the vote in the May elections, marking its weakest performance since ending apartheid 3 decades ago. Outside Africa, Russia has downed 39 Ukrainian drones, primarily targeting border regions, according to the Russian Defense Military. The drones were intercepted and destroyed in the Kursk region, 9 above Belgorod, 3 over Voronezh, and 5 over Bryansk. 3 others were neutralized in the Leningrad region. Russia has also launched attacks on Ukraine's power plants, causing severe electricity shortages. The U.S. has blamed Hezbollah for a rocket attack in the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights, killing 12 children and teenagers. Israel also blamed Hezbollah and said it would strike hard against the Iran-backed group. Hezbollah denied responsibility. The strike raised fears of wider Middle East conflict due to Israel's war in Gaza, which has killed tens of thousands and caused a humanitarian crisis. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken emphasized the U.S. support for Israel and urged against an escalation of conflict on Israel's northern border.
Let me say that we are deeply saddened by the loss of life that we saw. There is no justification for terrorism, period. And every indication is that indeed the rockets were the rocket was from Hezbollah. We stand by Israel's right to defend its citizens from terrorist attacks. And one of the reasons that we're continuing to work so hard for a ceasefire in Gaza is not just for Gaza, but also so that we can really unlock an opportunity to bring calm, lasting calm, across the blue line between Israel and Lebanon. We're determined to bring the Gaza conflict to a close. It's gone on for far too long. It's cost far too many lives. We want to see Israelis, we want to see Palestinians, we want to see Lebanese live free from the threat of conflict and violence. And again, specifically with regard to the blue line, it's so important that we help diffuse that conflict, not only prevent it from escalating, prevent it from spreading, but to diffuse it because you have so many people in both countries, in both Israel and Lebanon, who've been displaced from their homes. 60 or 70,000 Israelis, roughly the same number of Lebanese, and absent a secure environment, they're not going to be able to go home. So we're determined to do that. We're in conversations with the government of Israel.
In business news, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has announced that it will publish the names of owners of unclaimed balances in dormant accounts that are being transferred to the Unclaimed Balances Trust Fund, UBTF, pool account. In a statement titled Frequently Asked Questions on the Guidelines for the Management of Dormant Accounts, Unclaimed Balances and Other Financial Assets in Banks and Other Financial Institutions in Nigeria, the CBN provided further details. Unclaimed balances refer to account balances and other financial assets that have remained dormant for a minimum of 10 years in the books of financial institutions, FIs, and qualify for transfer to the CBN. The guidelines also cover dormant accounts which are distinct from domiciliary accounts. Accounts eligible for dormant status include current accounts, savings accounts, term deposits in local currency, domiciliary accounts, deposits for shares and mutual investments, prepaid card accounts and wallets, government-owned accounts, and others specified by the CBN. And finally, sports news. The Tigers point guard Ezinne Kalu fired a warning at opponents after spearheading a ferocious defense in Nigeria's 75-62 win over Australia in the 2024 Olympics Women's Basketball Tournament Group B opener in Lille on Monday morning. Nobody's defends quite like us. When we are on the court, we smell blood. Nobody defends quite like us, and that is what keeps us going. Australia came out in the second half with their veterans and an amazing coach who knows what she's doing, but we kept our foot on the gas and kept on going. End of quote. Nigeria now faces France and then Canada in their next Group B fixtures. That's the news brief. For more stories, please follow us on Facebook, X, and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa and Plus TV Africa Lifestyle. You can also view us from Limex on limex.tv and Glow TV apps anywhere in the world. My name is Nyamgul Agaji. Thank you for being there.
I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
My name is Tokumbo Ojekunle. I was born into the family of Abiodun and Olabisi. Father was from Abeokuta, mother from Porto Novo. What a very lucky and nice combination. I refer to myself as a Lagos boy, born in Lagos, bred in Lagos, and my earliest recollection was our family movement, resettlement from Lagos Island, Ebutimeta axis, to the now called New Lagos. New Lagos included Shita, Akerele, Bankolemo, Olawale Daudu, Adinuro Ogunsoya, Adelabu, Ogunlano Drive, the core Surulere. I then also recall the serene environment, the huge palm trees, palm kernels in the area. The sand feeling was white and rich like the sands from the Bar Beach. The interesting part of this extreme or time dual carriageway, it was always rough and busy. I also recall the good old days was always rough and busy. I also recall the good old days when the Western region began its marking from the Maryland area. Every house, every stretch, every community stretching from Maryland area was under the control of the western state of Nigeria. Good old days when fun, unending fun, flowed and went through the various club scenes in Lagos. You name them. Fela's African Shrine at Alakara and later Ikeja. Paradiso, Caban Bamboo, owned by late Highland veteran Bobby Benson. We also had Fantasy Club, Kakadu at Alagomeji, the Lord's Club at Maryland, and many to mention. Lagos nightlife was good, really good. The interesting thing was the safety of the night trips between the clubs. Safer still were the phone visits to the National Theatre Igomu, where live performances were always on the show. The local films were usually laced with foreign productions. I flash back to the days when we were exposed to the viewing of performances by many African nations. That was during the Festac 77. As I stand here and now, I recall the beautiful anthem of the festival. Can those days really come back? But hey, they still remain indelible in our minds. As we reflect on the good old days, the best days ever, I look forward to better days ahead when our children will be greater than us. Our story will be better told. I join Shimori Badijo in this collective drive towards a greater tomorrow.
Bankers and other financial sector stakeholders have urged President Bola Tinubu to withhold assents to the recently passed Finance Act Amendment Bill 2024. They are calling for the legislature and executive to reconsider the 70% foreign exchange windfall levy imposed on banks. Now, the National Assembly had increased the forex windfall levy from the originally proposed 50% to 70%, with retroactive application from January 1, 2023. This levy is intended to help finance the Renewed Hope infrastructure, education and healthcare project included in the President's supplementary budget proposal of 6.2 trillion naira. Now, President Tinubu has submitted this supplementary budget to the National Assembly, seeking to increase the 2024 national budget from 28.7 trillion naira to 34.9 trillion naira. The Forex Windfall Levy on banks' revaluation gains during 2023 is a key part of the funding plan for this additional spending. However, the financial sector is now appealing to the President to reconsider the 70% levy rate, arguing that it is too high. They have urged the President to withhold assent to the amended Finance Act until a more suitable levy can be determined through further discussions between the government and industry. Also, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPCL) has attributed the ongoing petrol scarcity in areas like Lagos and Abuja to a hitch in the discharge operations of vessels delivering fuel to filling stations in these regions, according to a statement from the NNPC spokesman Olufemi Shoneye on Saturday. Now, Shoneye explained that this hitch has disrupted normal operations and that the company is working with other stakeholders to resolve the issues and restore normalcy. We'll also bring you updates on the recent issues concerning the aviation sector on the show today. In a moment, this is Business Insights. I am Justin Nakadonye, your host. All right, before we get into the conversations, let's take this report. The Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, has emphasized that key reforms introduced and implemented by his administration were aimed at streamlining business development processes and building investors' confidence in the state's economy. The governor stated this while reeling out new investment focus on areas of opportunities before potential Social Impact Summit ACES. Details now.
The event brought together a diverse array of stakeholders, including investors, policymakers, trade organizations, financial executives, industry leaders, and business experts. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu told the forum that the state is projecting a positive economic outlook driven by its growing population and the development of sustainable infrastructure to spur growth.
In the last 5 years, like we've said, we've seen our GDP grow by almost 50%, and so it is to make sure that we can continually, encourage even in very difficult times, our investors to be able to have the conversations of de-risking, what could be their issues, what could be their concerns, and being able to give them that comfort, and that enabling, it is that they invest. As a government, will continue to play our own role and will ensure that, the investments are not only secured, but
you have to be able to forecast what the future would look like. The moment you are no longer able to determine what the immediate future will look like, let alone the distant future, you are not going to invest. And that comes from policies, right? You've got to have policy environment where there's predictability, there's clarity. And I think Lagos has done a pretty decent job of providing this policy environment. The other thing that then comes with that is, even if there's policy, will it be consistently applied? Would it be applied to every investor in the same way? Again, very important that you can estimate that the policy affects everyone in the same way. But ultimately, it comes down to there has to be a level of respect between government and the investor community. Because in the absence of respect, the communication that would lead to the building of trust will not exist. So I like that Lagos State continues to convene, continues to come in for events like the Africa Social Impact Summit, and of course bring in all the critical stakeholders, their commissioners, the head of agencies, and we have brought in the investors leading to this conversation. So yes, without respect, there is no trust. Without trust, there is no investment.
What I'm taking home is the fact that you can trust Lagos for continuity. So if you're investing in Lagos, there's a continuity plan. So in a lot of times you invest, and much later when the particular government is overthrust, Lagos is building trust in the hearts of investors. And of course communication. Lagos is trying as much as it can to communicate the opportunities it has to the world, to Africa, to West Africa, and then bringing people together to review these opportunities directly from critical stakeholders, in the governor's cabinet.
Investment opportunities in transportation, tourism, health insurance, and waterways, affirming the state government's commitment to advancing ambitious development plans for these key sectors.
All right, welcome back from that report as we look at the windfall tax conundrum, how we can navigate the fiscal impact on Nigerian banks. And I have international finance and economic analyst Mukhtar Mohammed joining me in this conversation. Thanks for joining me, Mukhtar. Good morning to you. Mukhtar, can you hear us? We can hear you. All right, let's take a quick break and see if we can reconnect with Mukhtar. Mukhtar, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, I couldn't hear you at the point. Okay, so let's talk about the windfall tax. There's been so much ado about it since last week, since this Finance Act bill was actually amended and all of that. First of all, let us just get a perspective, an overview concerning the windfall tax and what it is all about, and so Nigerians can better get a good grasp of it.
Well, Justin, this is the first time I'm seeing that in the history of banking in Nigeria, tax policy in Nigeria, where you pay tax for what you've already, retroactive tax, they call it. It's not in our law, but again, it's not that you are doing a tax evasion that you say, okay, somebody has evaded tax for a while. Now, this is as a result of what they call the windfall, the FX revaluation. It's not that there's one money that was gotten out of a profit, but just a revaluation based on the floating of the naira, which the government says market determining exchange rate market they are trying to create. By doing that, the banks that have FX in their reserve now, that help up, because I mean, from a low of about 340, it moved to a high of about 1,500. That also helped in boosting their balance sheets in terms of profit, because you also have to put in profit. But we need to get it clear that the CBN themselves came up with a circular to the banks and told the bank that they don't see that as realizable. It's just gaining based on a revaluation of the currency. And if the currency goes down to like 1,000 or 1,700, but not even the 1,500, that means it will cause system challenges to the banks. And the CBN said this money must not be used also for operational purposes. It must not also be used to pay their shareholders. And those money were just there. They were not being used for anything because of the risks involved. All of a sudden, the government is saying that they want to tax that money after taxing 9% from there, after collecting 30%. What are you doing to those other sectors that suffered because of your policy? And why are you just signaling the bank? The oil and gas, you told them not to use it. So it's really a very dicey situation in the financial sector at a time like this, where the banks are looking for funds to recapitalize, at a time like this where the government also say foreign investors to come in. So we have seen that we impact the coming of foreign investors to Nigeria. One, is current tax policy of the government, and secondly, the war between the government and Dangote refinery. This does not include traveling out to the shore of this country to get investors. So they need to look back at their policies, sit down, because the only golden fish that we have spread around Africa and also globally, they still remain one of Nigerian finest, and in terms of global representative of what our economy will look like going forward, still remain the banks. And I think the president should have a rethink on this policy on the bank, because it's going to be counterproductive, especially now that you want the bank to recapitalize. Remember that recapitalization in itself shouldn't be an issue for the banks. You told them to go and look for fresh funding, because the bank shareholders' funds are running to trillion. And so one part of these shareholders' funds are some of these FS schemes. So actually, that what it means is that the government have always had this idea. That's why the CBN told them to look for a new fund. And that is not being sincere with your stakeholder, and that is dangerous for the economy.
All right, so in all of this, that the federal government, as it is just looking for various ways, to just get money from the system. But what can the banks really do? Because from what I hear, the punishment for non-compliance with the act would be a further liability of 10% of the tax withheld or not remitted per annum, as in globally, as in global standard? Because I hear there's something like in the UK.
Well, if you have it in the UK, they didn't just wake up one day after they submitted the report to do that. It must have been in their law. Windfall.
The National Assembly is not alone in legislating for a windfall tax or a sole tax on businesses or also industries that have benefited from certain economic conditions to redistribute the excess profit and gains from those businesses and industries to fund social or development project. The Italian windfall tax for banks at 40% for FY 2023 resulted from a government rate hike, which triggered higher net interest margins and yielded record profits for banks. Now, the windfall tax was implemented as the cost of loans soared while lenders held off paying more on deposits. I'll take a quick break and see if I can reconnect with Mukhtar in a moment. Stay with me. Welcome back. It's still Business Insight on Plus TV Africa. I still have Mukhtar Mohammed joining me right now over the phone. Mukhtar, just before we left off, we're talking about how it works globally, and we're citing the instance with the UK, and you were explaining to us.
Yes, what I'm saying is that, yes, it happened in other countries. Nobody is saying it doesn't happen, but it's not at the, when they say at the middle of the match, then you change the rule. Windfalls are things that are issued in some of these constitutions of this country and also in their tax policies. So it's not something that just comes out of the blue because the government need money, like what we are experiencing here in Nigeria. Now, every talk is about the government need money, and that's why they are doing. Whereby you are just sitting at the bank, like you said in your report, we still have the oil and gas sector also that benefited from this year of reform. But again, your reform is what of those sectors that didn't benefit from your reform, that are busy declaring losses, and these sectors are the key employers of Nigeria. And you're talking Nigerians, talking about the informal sector. How much losses they've incurred. Some of these companies are leaving Nigeria because of those losses. You are not even looking at that. You're just looking at one side of it, if I think it's right.
And the airlines issue right now. First of all, the fuel scarcity. Since Friday, Saturday, especially in Lagos and Abuja, the residents and commuters, motorists have been buying fuel at over 800. Some are buying as much as 1,000, 1,100, even at the parallel market rate. And the NNPCL has come out to say that it was due to a hitch in their vessel operations and all that. Why are we still having this issue of fuel scarcity, Mukhtar?
Because we are not sincere. The NNPC will keep telling you. There's never been a time that the NNPC have not given us excuse. And this is still what we keep saying, that because we rely so much on the NNPC, they are the sole importer of petroleum product into this country. And that is why a lot of people like us don't understand why the government will end this menace and suffering of Nigerians. For me, I think it's a deliberate plot to drag us back, especially by NNPC, because they've always have excuse. There's never been a time that the fuel scarcity have come and NNPC have owned up to their fault. It's something you have to plan before time. You know what the challenges are. You know what the challenges will be. So I think for me, it's just same excuse, because the NNPC is just not upping its game. And I think the management of the NNPC in developed countries should have been told to resign at this point in time, because the NNPC have promised us for local consumption. And up to this moment, we have not gotten anything from them, especially the Port Harcourt refinery. The last time I heard the group managing director almost taking an oath on national television and saying, this time I'm not lying. It will come to pass. So has he been lying thus far? So there's a lot of things that we need. It's not taking the bull by the horn. Right. And I think it's very, very, very annoying for people like us that policy and be able to take the bull by the horn.
All right. Finally, let's look at another mode of transportation away from road. Let's talk aviation, air transport, and reports reaching us indicate that NAMA is about hiking the airline navigation services by 800%. At the time, right now, when Nigerians couldn't have been more pressured by issues, inflation, hunger, even those that can still fly, they are set to pay almost ×8 what they are paying. What is really going on, Mukhtar?
Well, you have to ask the government. I told you that this government is just interested in revenue. If you look at what the aviation sector is seeing, they've been the lowest. The last time they did this was like in 2014. They said that they are supposed to have reviewed it based on economic challenges, which I agree with them. But again, the mode of operandi, if you look at 2014 up to now, the economy has been struggling. So why have you not been increasing this and gradual increment and just hitting 800%? Just we're seeing the same thing in the power sector, where instead of doing a gradual increment like what other developed countries or even developing economic are doing, you just see the government take a large job. Now, people are struggling to even travel with the high cost of air tickets, and then now you are now adding that to it. That will take the air ticket to almost 400%, and that is one. And secondly, you mustn't forget that other means of transportations are not there yet, because of if you are going from Lagos to Abuja, you put your heart will be in your hand because of the insecurity, kidnapping. So you've not even created an avenue for whereby you have a choice to say, you know what, this is too expensive, like in developed nations, then I will have to go by road, and the roads are not good, and then you have insecurity. So government seems to just look at revenue. And like I said, if you stay this long, yes, it's one, because the exchange rate at 2015, 2014 is not the same thing. Aviation is forex driven. I agree totally with it, but I think it should be done gradually with a human face. A sector that is already struggling in terms of effects for maintenance. We've seen that in a lot of airlines incidents that have happened. These are due to maintenance. So now you are now putting this burden on them. That means you are putting the life of most Nigerians at risk in flying. So I think the government needs to look at second thought, in as much as I agree that levels may have to increase, but I don't think it should be done at a go at 800%.
All right. Thank you so much, Mukhtar Mohammed, for your useful insight as always on the program. We do appreciate them. All right, that's the size of the show for today. I must say a very big thank you to all of you who have sat back to watch. My name is Justin Akadenya. We'll return again same time next time. Bye for now.
Sometimes when we see celebrities either on social media, television, or in person, we assume they have it all together, but we forget that they're also human. Well, here are some of the low points of some of your favorite celebrities.
Story. Once upon a time, there was a very young, agile, vivacious, spunky, unconventional Pikin. You have all come to know and love as Brother Derele, Shewere, and all of the above. But you see, getting to this very point in time has been a story of hurdles. I have crossed so many hurdles. I've broken down ceilings. I've crashed barriers. I've scaled mountains, figuratively speaking. Because you know what? For every single door that was shut on my face, you know what? I found another door. For every time I was put in a box, I jumped right out of that box. I am still in an industry where I have to constantly prove myself. Not the fact that I have to prove myself to myself, but I have to prove myself every time how resilient I can be and how much of an identity and strong force that I must be. So you know what? This is my celebrity story. My story is like $1 million question rolled into one.
My story for today, which hopefully will inspire you, is that when I was 17, my mom died. And at the time, my mom was the only one that had been encouraging me as far as acting was concerned. My dad was not for it at all. And on her deathbed, she told my father, let this girl do what she wants to do. Unfortunately, he was still against it. And I went to theater school, much to his disdain. But the thing is, even though I went through a lot of stuff because he refused to like sponsor me because I was doing what he didn't want me to do, I endeavored, I worked, you know, I had many jobs. I used to do all kinds of stuff. I used to braid hair. You know, there's a lot of stuff I do people don't know about just to make ends meet. Some days it would be between transport and food and all kinds of things. But I endeavored, I worked hard, I stuck to what I wanted to do, and finally I am here. And as far as I'm concerned, I've only just begun. But I am here, and I'm going to keep on pushing on until that Oscar sits on top of my table. So, you know, no matter what it is that you want to do, so far it's a good thing. Don't let anyone discourage you. There will always be a way around it if you just put your head.
Whatever you're going through in life today, make sure you keep your head up, because whatever you're experiencing, it will give you that power, that strength, not to allow your kids to go through that. Rude Boy says so. Bless her.
Before Jennifer's Diary, I would go for, to be honest, I did not think I was going to be an actor. I just thought I was going to sing. How I got into acting, one particular day, I went to church for rehearsals, choir rehearsal, and then I got there early. My friend called that she had written my name in some audition. I was like, audition, ads film, me? I know they do. So she was like, come through, they're waiting. So because rehearsals had not started and the place wasn't so far from where I was, so I was like, okay, I'll just go and see what's up. Thereafter, I started going for auditions and auditions and auditions. Some people will say really nasty stuff to you. Instead of them to just say, no, go. They will yab you. They will make you not believe in yourself. You'll be like, you just feel like giving up. So I just chilled. And then one particular time, I got a BC, 1,000 Days of Blackberry. My friend sent me an audition BC. It was for Jennifer's Diary. So I said, guy, I know they go. All these things, they don't already get people where they want to put there. So I'm not going to go. So I was like, go. My mom told me to, and my friend. So I didn't even know what to wear. So I was discouraged, like, nah, I'm not going to go. But my friend, thankfully, she works for Genevieve at the time. By the way, I love. I cannot explain the love I have for Genevieve. The place was crowded and I don't like crowd. So I went to hide in the restroom as always. That's what I always do. So I was there till like 8 p.m. For real. I called my mom. Mom, I'm leaving. She said, no, too bad it's audition. So I stayed there. 9 p.m. I auditioned. In my head, I was like, there's no way they wouldn't have found people they need. A couple of weeks after, they called me for the second audition. We did the third audition. We did the final reading.
There are signs Afghanistan is emerging from the darkness. Recovering from 30 years of war and repression. But the country is still under siege from within. War with Taliban insurgents threatens the nation's security. Corruption reaches into the highest levels of government. Addiction rates rise among women and children. And a booming multi-billion-dollar illegal drug trade continues to thrive.
The amount of cultivation in Afghanistan is scary. It's actually terrifying. No other country in the world has ever produced that much narcotics.
At the center of Afghanistan's crisis, a hardy, drought-resistant crop that joins poor farmers with criminals and extremists, while pushing the nation toward the brink of disaster. Under cover of darkness, somewhere along Afghanistan's eastern border with Pakistan, a farmer delivers his opium poppy crop to a local trafficker. Here begins a worldwide illegal narcotics revenue stream, one generating $4 billion a year in Afghanistan. Prior to 2002, opium cultivation was legal and highly profitable for farmers, returning up to 10 times more money per acre than other crops. The source for heroin, poppy became Afghanistan's most lucrative export. And it still is today. Cultivation has been banned since 2002. Yet poppy still grows in regions of the country where the central government has little control. The international community, led by the US and Great Britain, has invested hundreds of millions by their own government, a harsh punishment. Afghanistan's poppy problem began in 1973 with the overthrow of King Zahir Shah, whose family had ruled the country for 2 centuries. A series of political upheavals followed, orchestrated by the Soviet Union.
First of all, you have to know that the Russians spent 200 years trying to get control of Afghanistan because they wanted Afghanistan as the route to the Indian subcontinent and the sea.
The dreams of empire led the Soviets to invade Afghanistan in December 1979 and begin a brutal 10-year occupation.
روسانو په افغانستان کې ډېر بد خاطرې موږ داغونه لرو. افغانان په شهادت ورسول او ډېر افغانان مهاجر کړل د خپل ملک نه، ډېر افغانان معیوب کړل، ډېر افغانان وزورول ورته چې ژوندي د خاورو د لاندې کړل. نو موږ داغه نه ډېرې سختې او بدې خاطرې لرو. ټول افغانان داغه نه بدې خاطرې لري. د وروس د راتګ نه او تر وتو پورې د افغانستان خلک د وروس نه ډېر بدې خاطرې لري.
Throughout the 80s, Afghan fighters known as the Mujahideen battled endlessly to force a Soviet retreat.
موږ صرف خپل د علاقو نه د اسلام په نوم موږ خپل عقیدې په لحاظ باندې دا جنګ کړی دی. موږ دوی سره کوم دغه نه لرو، نو خو دا چې ما درته مخکې ویلي چې دوی زموږ په اسلام باندې تعرض وکړه، دا خو داسې تعرض نه و چې دوی یوازې په خاوره وکړو. دوی خو زموږ اسلام نه مانه، دوی خو موږ باندې هغه خپل سوسیالیستي چې دی که نه منل.
The Mujahideen resistance surprised the world. Soviet troops were forced out of Afghanistan in 1989, leaving a devastated land behind. They also left the country without a generation of leaders to move it forward.
Many of them were executed. They were simply thrown into prison, some were tortured to death. Others were driven into exile to save their lives, and this of experienced leadership has been lost.
Lost, too, was the country's stable rural economy. 10 years of war left farmland ravaged or abandoned. Irrigation systems, livestock herds, roads, and markets were destroyed. Meanwhile, with few alternatives, desperate farmers turned to opium poppy cultivation for survival.
Before the Soviet invasion, there was really no cultivation all consumption of opium in Afghanistan to any commercial extent. It is only at the beginning of the 80s that Afghanistan started to develop the cultivation and abuse of opium.
The victory over the Soviet Union morphed during the 90s into a civil war among competing Mujahideen factions, each vying for control of the country. Opium became a reliable income-generating crop, not only for farmers, but for the rival forces who needed money to fund their military operations. The Taliban's rise to power in 1996 did not slow opium cultivation.
When the Taliban first appeared in Afghanistan, based on their religion, they took a stand against opium. But as they extended their control into more areas where opium poppy was grown, they found that it was not possible to retain control of the territory while attacking people's livelihoods. So instead, they ruled that while it was forbidden for Muslims to consume opium or to sell it to Muslims, in case of necessity, it was permissible to grow it or trade in it as long as it was not consumed by Muslims.
The Taliban's
eliminating the crop, and he was one of the #1 dealers in opium the entire time that he was posing for holy pictures with UN officials talking about the eradication effort.
Set the stage for a new democracy which outlawed opium. President Karzai made controlling poppy a top priority.
It destroys our economy. It destroys a good family life in Afghanistan, which is the most important thing to have in any country. And most important of all, drug production and trafficking goes hand in hand with terrorism.
In 2004, under great pressure for poppy, and promised that in 2 years there won't be any poppy plant left in Afghanistan. Well, obviously, this has not materialized at all. There is more poppy in Afghanistan today than there has been at any point in Afghanistan's history. There is more poppy today in Afghanistan than there has been in the modern history of the drug trade.
That has the problem of poppies, and Afghanistan has the problem of the fight against terrorism. We're fighting both.
But the fight against poppy is not going well.
The amount of cultivation in Afghanistan is scary. It's actually terrifying. No other country in the world has ever produced that much narcotics.
Nor has any country in modern times exported as much narcotics. Getting the product to market starts with the sap from the opium bulb being harvested in the fields. Through a series of steps in secret labs, the sap can be processed into grades of heroin. With hundreds of miles of open frontier borders and thousands of people pouring across checkpoints each day, smuggling narcotics out of Afghanistan, while risky, is big business. The $4 billion Afghan opium generates internally grows to over $40 billion as it travels through the Middle East, across Europe, and into Great Britain. This is more than a money-making criminal enterprise. Intelligence reveals links between Afghan drug lords, traffickers, and Taliban insurgents who are paid to provide protection against government counter-narcotics efforts.
The Taliban has been one of the principal dealers in opium paste and in heroin. And we have seen the insurgency fueled by funding from the trade in drugs.
Estimates suggest as much as 40% of the Taliban's income derives from opium.
You look at a map of Afghanistan and see where the poppy is grown, and you look at a second map of Afghanistan to see where there's insecurity, it's the same map. Where there's poppy, there's insecurity. Where there's insecurity, there's poppy. And so what we're trying to do is adjust the strategy. We focus more on a closer coordinated counterinsurgency, counter-narcotics effort. We have to work more closely with the military to make sure those efforts are well coordinated.
Of Afghanistan's 32 provinces, 4 in the Taliban-controlled south produce 2/3 of the country's poppy crop. Signs of the Taliban are everywhere, like this abandoned compound in Kandahar province, where the plot for 9/11 was hatched. Today, it's a reminder of the tensions that still haunt this region. The U.S. military is in Afghanistan as part of a multinational NATO security force supporting the Karzai government and the Afghan National Army. Their mission is not rooting out drug dealers. Instead, they battle Taliban fighters funded in part by illegal narcotics.
If you do get attacked, it's going to be coming from pretty much anywhere.
U.S. Staff Sergeant Lucas Hearn is stationed here at Zabul Province Forward Observation Base in the south, the front lines where the fight against the Taliban is fiercest.
They'll do small arms attacks on us every once in a while. More often than not, though, we just get mortared from up on these ridge lines.
NATO soldiers aren't the only ones putting their lives on the line. Afghan National Police also provide backup by helping man the rugged hilltop posts overlooking the valley. It's dangerous work, trying to control a region that's known as a powder keg, but it's where the future of a nation may be decided. Combating the poppy trade requires a strong government capable of safeguarding its people and enforcing its laws. In 2004, the United States developed a 5-pillar counter-narcotics strategy to help Afghanistan's fledgling democracy rid the country of drugs.
Well, the 5-pillar plan is a combination of incentives and disincentives, and that's the only way to defeat a narcotics problem anywhere in the world. You have to offer farmers an alternative crop for a poppy. You have to make sure there's something else they can grow. You have to have an education campaign that explains what poppy does. It's not just a beautiful flower that brings them money. It causes misery and harm in Afghanistan, around Afghanistan. And then there have to be law enforcement. Poppy is illegal in Afghanistan. People have to know there are consequences to growing it and trafficking in it.
Manual eradication is perhaps the most controversial part of the strategy.
The United Nations says that you need to eradicate about 20% of the poppy in a given area in order to deter planting the next year. The objective is not to lower the number of hectares under cultivation. The objective is to interject risks to the farmer. What keeps them from planting the next year is the fear of eradication.
But eradication can also be risky business for the government. On a dusty plateau in Oruzgan province, a joint U.S.-Afghan team prepares for an eradication in Tiran Kot, a Taliban stronghold.
This afternoon, explain some of your ideas. We agreed with the Dutch to start with, at least. We'd stay 67 west.
The operation has been coordinated with village elders and local government officials who've helped select the fields to be destroyed. General Mohammed Daoud, Deputy Minister of the Interior and a leader in the country's counter-narcotics effort,
در بعضی ولسوالی‌های مثل چوره و چارچینو مشکلات امنیتی وجود داره. روز گذشتم طالبان حمله کردند از پوسته ها که دوباره اون پوسته امروز پس گرفته شد.
Set for the mission, a convoy heads out, including a group of Americans who'll provide security. But soon, there's trouble.
We are taking fire. How copy?
Taliban. They are Taliban fighting. Yes.
With gunfire on all sides, the eradication team flees to safety, leaving the mission unfinished. Taliban still in control.
When forceful eradication takes place, the rural population is still fundamentally dependent on the illicit opium poppy economy. It alienates the population from the government and the peacekeeping forces and pushes it into the hands of the Taliban.
Many agree, including a British member of parliament.
Farmers. And in the short term, you do not do that by corruptly destroying their opium crop. You persuade them over time that it is better and possible for them to have alternative livelihoods, to make meaningful money doing something else. And you won't do that till you've got proper irrigation systems, till you've got decent roads, till you've got access to markets. All these things, they need to happen first. Just to, traipse in and, tractor over someone's fields is not the way to, endear yourself.
There's proof that alternative livelihood programs have worked to replace poppy cultivation. Projects for growing and exporting pomegranates and vegetables have been successful. But the challenge is making them profitable and sustainable for all farmers. Failing this can undermine the effort. Case in point, Nangarhar province near the Pakistan border. As late as 2004, Nangarhar was a top opium producer, second only to Helmand in the Taliban-controlled south. Then the government, with the help of the international community, declared war against poppy in the province. Along with eradication efforts, Cash for Work projects supported by the U.S. provided alternative sources of income for poppy farmers. Agricultural aid programs gave farmers an incentive to grow legal crops instead of opium. The result, cultivation in Nangarhar dropped by over 90% in a single year.
2005, Nangarhar saw a 90% decline in cultivation. And this was hailed as a major success of eradication and counter-narcotics policies in Afghanistan. Why was this success achieved? It was because it would come.
In the Shinwari district of Nangarhar province, Elder Dur Jan was one of the tribal leaders who supported the government ban against cultivating opium poppy. He convinced local farmers to stop growing it, based on the promise of alternative livelihood aid, and helped reduce cultivation levels to nearly zero. Himself a farmer, Durjan endured the financial sacrifice the ban imposed on growers. This year, Durjan must again persuade farmers to refrain from growing poppy. But it's getting harder. Despite complying with the ban, people have seen little help in return. Making matters worse, a prolonged drought has gripped the region, leaving those wanting to believe in Afghanistan's future with a sense of futility.
ما خپل نظر دا دی چې افغانستان اوس په مثال د مریض دی مریض یو مرض نه زمونږ یو مرض نه دی مونږ کې ټول مرضونه موجود دي لوګره کې موجود ده بیکاري کې موجود ده مریضتیا ډېرې زیاتې وي دا مخکې په دې ډېرې ښه ده خو ډېرې ډېرې زیاتې کوي خو ګډه پیم دا په دې ځای باندې اوبه وي په دې ځای اوس په دې ځای باندې
Since poppy plants can survive on rainwater alone, and in drought-like cultivating it out of necessity.
مشکلات خو زمونږ همدغه مشکلات دي چې د خلک د نفس سره لاس په ګریوان دي که یو بوټی کوکنارې کېده هغې باندې یو مشکل راپکېده کوکنار د حکومت په ضد نه کوي او کوکنار د نفس د خاطره کوي چې دوی د دې سره په مشکل اخته دي خو موږ به بیا هم دا کوشش کوو چې زمونږ رعیت زمونږ عام خلک کوکنارو کروندونه ځانونه وساتي وی نه کوي خو دا چې اوس حکومت خو هم دومره وکولی شي چې د دې خلکو سره خو هم یو څه وکړي او هغه داسې څه نه چې موږ ته دا وړي چې ماته ایښي دي دا اوس 4000 کورونه زه تقسیمولی شم خو دا نه شم تقسیمولی نو که داسې کومکونه موږ سره کوي نه دي کوي.
In 2007, the Shinwari district returned to growing poppy.
The promises of alternative livelihoods never materialized for many. In some circumstances, household income crashed by more than 90%. People lost all productive assets. They were not able to meet basic subsistence. So it was not at all surprising, and in fact, arguably inevitable, that the population went back to cultivating poppy.
The failure of the government to deliver on promises. 6 months earlier, the farmer got an advance from the trafficker toward his future poppy crop. Providing credit is standard business practice and helps farmers make it through the winter. It also proves the value of opium, which generally returns 8 to 10 times more per acre than crops like wheat or rice. The trafficker comes from a long line of those who followed in their father's footsteps.
زمونږ دا کاروبار مونږ ته د ډېر پخوانه راپاتې دی یعنې د خپل پلرونو نیکونو مونږ ته په دې سره خپل ژوند په مخ بیو بل داسې کاروبار زمونږ دپاره نشته چې مونږ یې دې ځای کې په دې منطقه کې وکړو مونږ دپاره په دې اندازه باندې مونږ ته کم عاید لاسته راشي.
With the average income less than $400 a year, for many, trafficking makes economic sense, despite the risks. The opium's freshness is judged by touch. Soft and putty-like, harden in storage, becoming more concentrated.
اړول خاتمه زمونږ په کاروبار باندې اغېزه لري ځکه چې څومره چې هلته کار کمیږي هومره زمونږ دپاره عاید هم کمیږي مونږ خو چېرته دهقانانو له حکومت د بدیل معاشیات ورکړي یعنې هغو دپاره داسې یو څه برابر کړي چې د دې کوکنارو او د دې اپین نه د هغو
2 a.m. in Badakhshan province, and the anti-narcotics police begin their operation. With the morning, but the portable generator is a good sign. And further along the ravine, they find with 600 kilograms of opium ready to be processed into 75 kilograms of heroin. Wholesale value in neighboring Iran, $250,000. This time, the lab workers were tipped off and escaped, but not before converting the raw opium into a solid morphine base, the step before refining to various grades of heroin for smoking or injecting. Given the remote location and difficulty of the terrain, Amin will have his men pour out the liquid here and destroy any remaining raw opium or bags of chemicals. This is the 11th lab Colonel Amin and his men have raided in Badakhshan during the last year. But it's too soon to declare a victory in the province's drug war. Police reports claim many other primitive heroin labs in Badakhshan. They exist because the big money's in processing.
The UN Office on Drugs and Crime has estimated in recent years that the farmers are getting from 20 to 30%, and that traffickers, corrupt officials, Taliban, and other participants in it, like people who, the 70 or 80%.
70 to 80% of a yearly $4 billion revenue stream is a staggering amount of money. The average per capita income in Afghanistan is under $400 a year. Few legal jobs can match the money earned in the drug trade. But efforts to stop trafficking have begun.
د هوایي ډګر د سرحدي پولیسو او د نورو نهادو ارګانونو په کومک سره بیا هم پولیسو امروز وکولی شول چې دوه کسان چې د افغانستان اوسېدونکي وو غوښتل چې
trying to revamp their country's tarnished image.
لکه څرنګه چې ګران هیوادوال په دې باندې پوهیږي چې میدان هوایي و هوایي دروازه ده د افغانستان د خلکو عزت ابرو ده چې زموږ د نړۍ سره ارتباطات تامینوي.
The next stop for these men is a date in an Afghan court.
قضای وزای قضایی محترم علی قایص عبدالوهاب سدید و قایص عبدالظاهر سدید در مورد قضیه قاچاق مقدار 11.10 کیلوگرم تریاک با اتهام
Typically, defendants go to trial about 2 months after arrest. But they're not the only ones whose lives hang in the balance.
توقیفیت با مدت 10 سال حبس تنفیذی و با مبلغ 700,000 افغانی جریمه نقدی محکوم به مجازات نمودیم.
While justice should be blind, it's often the small-time growers and dealers who are put in jail, caught up in the interdiction campaign.
افغانان ټول په پوي دي موږ نه واخله تر تاسو پورې له تاسو واخله بیا تر حکومت دولت ریاست جمهوریت پورې ټول په خبر دي. هر هغه کسان چې دوی د قانون تشویق کوي اوس هم موجود دي، په کابل کې موجود دي، اعلان کې په وزارتو کې موجود دي، په چارواکو کې، په پولیسو چارواکو کې یا په وزارتي چارواکو کې دا وجود لري. هم دا اوس هم ستا په پارلمان کې دا غړي دي د افغانستان، هغوی دا تشویق کوي ورکوي. خو هغه کسان دي چې هغوی لاسونه اوږده دي لوی قاچاقبران په ظاهرا آزاد ګرځي.
The problem with interdiction, the way it's been carried out, is that it has targeted small traders with little political clout who have no...
Cases are built against the management, against the traffickers, against the mid-level and the high-level individuals. Those people, you have to get evidence against them. They have to be arrested. They have to be formally charged in a court of law. They have to be prosecuted, convicted, and put in prison.
One high-level drug lord that was arrested wasn't tried in Afghanistan. Instead, he was turned over to federal authorities in the United States.
Haji Baz Mohammed, who was extradited Friday, is one of the world's most wanted, most powerful, and most dangerous drug kingpins.
Baz Mohammed was the first defendant the Afghan government ever extradited for drug crimes.
He pled guilty to being a manager of a heroin transportation organization through which he moved heroin from Pakistan and Afghanistan to the U.S. from 1990 through 2005. From 1994 forward, he and his organization used some of the money from the sales of the heroin in the U.S. to support the Taliban in Afghanistan. And in exchange, they received the protection of the Taliban.
Mohammed was sentenced to over 15 years in a U.S. prison, a key judgment to Boyd Johnson.
But I think it does make a difference when you take out a person the stature of Baz Mohammed. You send a message to the people of Afghanistan and to the traffickers themselves that they're not above the law.
Johnson admits that Afghanistan's judicial system has a ways to go.
I think that the corruption in Afghanistan is a significant issue. And it's not going to take a week or even a year. It's going to take a long time.
Corruption is a serious, serious problem. The police are corrupted from time to time. Local government officials are corrupted, provincial government officials sometimes are corrupted, so it's across the board. Unfortunately, this is becoming a all too common in Afghanistan society in general, but it's certainly very much there in drugs.
Newspaper editor Shukriya Barakzai is one of the members of Afghanistan's new parliament, frustrated by the all too common wrongdoing she sees.
چون اگر فساد می‌بینین در اراکین دولتی موجود هست، قاچاق مواد مخدره می‌بینین موجود هست، گریز از حسابدهی موجود هست، گریز از عدالت موجود هست و از پشت میز محکمه خو معلوم داره که یادشم نامشان بگیرین اصلا امرایتان قبول نمیکنن. چطور من میتونم که پس همی توقع رو داشته باشم که خب بیا خیر است بیادر جان هرچی مزبان میکنیم؟ نه.
Afghanistan
ما تعقیب کنیم بریم به هیچ جای نمیرسیم.
Today, illegal processing in Afghanistan has made drugs cheaper and more available within the country. The result is that, increasingly, Afghans themselves are succumbing to the dangers of the country's largest cash crop. A recent United Nations survey puts the number of heroin addicts throughout the country at 50,000. That's in addition to 150,000 people who use opium. Poverty and unemployment are two, but in Afghanistan, there's another reason.
During the past quarter century, so many conflicts against the Soviet, against one another, the Mujahideen civil war period, that created a context whereby people, especially internally displaced people, especially refugees, found themselves in dire conditions, and some of them started to use opium as a way of just forgetting life.
Drug addiction, unfortunately, has come to Afghanistan, mainly as a consequence of our being refugees in our neighboring countries. It ruins families. It's something that worries me a lot. It's something that we have not yet done much, unfortunately.
Many of the country's addicts picked up their habit elsewhere. In neighboring Pakistan or Iran, where per capita heroin use is the highest in the world. Among them, 39-year-old Abdurrahman, who struggled 12 years with addiction. His life reveals a growing trend in a country where domestic drug abuse was once virtually unknown. Realizing how his addiction affected his family, Abdurrahman quit using heroin. He is very firm about his outlook on those working in the illegal drug trade.
کسی که این کارو میکنه اون اصلا مسلمان نیست، زاده این خاک نیست، بر ضد مردم، بر ضد جوانای این وطن، بر ضد جهان. طور یک ایانه که از آساما اون بهتر است.
Abdurrahman escaped from the web of addiction, but many Afghans still struggle. North of the Hindu Kush in Afghanistan is where the Central Asian steppes begin, a flat, grassy plain that stretches hundreds of miles into Russia. In Balkh province, farming and herding still prevail as a way of life. Today, the province is poppy-free, the result of the government's rigorous anti-narcotics campaign. But addiction rates are growing. And it's here where Dr. Mohammed Ehsan Hamra practices, serving some of the most remote parts of the country, where access to medical care is limited. Dr. Ahsan sees many addicts whose abuse resulted from war, displacement, or a society in chaos. However, he also encounters traditional communities where drug addiction is rampant. The UNODC estimates 1/3 of the people in this district, mostly Turkmen, are drug addicted.
بیشتر قوم ترکمن به شکل قبیلوی زندگی میکنن و از سالهای بسیار زیاد یا مصروف استعمال مواد مخدر، آن هم به خاطر کاهش دردشان است و عدم دسترسی به خدمات صحی باعث از این شده که سالهای زیاد این مردم از اوپیوم یا تریاک من حیث دوای ضد درد استفاده کنند و عامل اصلی هم من فکر میکنم که یا کارهای سنگینم مثل قالین بافی و چیزهای دیگه میکنن.
In a traditional village, opium addiction may look different than an urban setting. 50-year-old Najiba, a mother of 5, is a carpet weaver whose rugs are sold in shops in the provincial capital of Mazar-e Sharif, 30 miles away.
تریاک میخوریم. تریاک خوب میکنه؟ ها، کمتر جمع میکنه جانایی.
Opium also serves another purpose for rug weavers needing to keep their hands free of child-caring duties.
روزانه چند وقت دیوشتکتان تریاک میکنیم؟ 2 وقت. خواهی نمیکنه نتی نمیکنه کو بیکار آدم تیره ده دست بگیره ده اونجا بگرده بیکار آدم نیست کو دیگه.
از نظر ما یک تراژدی است، یک تراژدی انسانی که یک طفل هیچ گناهی نداره که او معتاد شود، او احتیاط کسب کنه و تجربه که ما در این ساحه دارم و کارهایی که در این ساحه ما کردیم این برای من نشان داده که مادرات و عدم آگاهی از ضرر مواد مخدر یا از ضرر تریاک یا اوپیوم و اونمو هست که طفل که هیچ گناهی نداره و گناهی از این اونمو هست که جامعه فقیری مثل افغانستان، جامعه که سطح آگاهی مردم آنقدر بلند نیست که از ضرر مواد مخدر بفهمند که اولاد خدا که بسیار دوست داشتنی می باشند و با زندگی راحت داشته باشند، زندگی عاری از مواد مخدر داشته باشند.
Begun in childhood or later to alleviate work-related pain, opium addiction often continues into old age. While illegal opium is a threat within Afghanistan, it's also a threat to the world community, and solutions must extend beyond Afghanistan's borders. Reducing worldwide demand is one solution.
If you eradicated every opium poppy in Afghanistan, you would still have drugs on the streets of my constituency and, in small-town America. What we have to do is we have to focus on dealing with demand for drugs and not just seeing it as a question on the supply side.
If you look at any success story in the world on fighting drugs, you have to reduce demand in the countries that have the demand while simultaneously cutting off the supply.
Meanwhile, as the insurgency continues in the country, efforts to curb the drug trade have yet to produce results. A UN assessment for 2008 found opium cultivation at virtually the same levels as the record-breaking harvest in 2007. Welcome news for traffickers in the country.
دغه واړه کچاکبرانې موږ د طالبان او د حکومت یعنې هغو سره موږ کوم ارتباط نه لرو نو په دې خاطر باندې موږ په دې باندې مطمئن چې دا کوکنار به تر ډېر وخته پورې زموږ کاروبار به هم د دې کوکنارو تر موجودیت پورې دا هم ادامه پیدا کړي.
20 years, perhaps 25 years. But we have to start, and we are starting now.
It took almost 30 years for Afghanistan to get into the condition that it's
Tehran's Haftetir Square is a hub of activity even at night. Along with shops and restaurants, there's also underground business taking place. Studies by independent researchers have found that around 50% of Iranian sex workers are married. Many are university students or still in secondary school. And an Iranian welfare organization found that girls as young as 12 work in the sex trade. But crackdowns by the police are rare, according to Pari, who works as a so-called auntie, arranging business for other women.
کلا مامورا خیلی به پرپاتون نمیپیچن؟
حالا نکنی نه کاری نداره نهایتش اینه که حق حسابشو میگیره ولی به من که گیر نداره
چرا؟
حالا نیستم.
If someone is caught, a judge can impose prison time or lashes. And punishment is more likely to be handed to sex workers than to their clients. Iran is in the midst of its worst financial crisis since the 1980s, driven partly by punitive U.S. sanctions.
اوضاع خرابه. ما خیلی خوشمون نمیاد ولی دیگه مجبوریم. الان همه چی گرون شده. بعد یه جوری خرج زندگیمون رو در بیاریم دیگه.
دیگه پول بخوام کار نداشته باشم خب دیگه این کار بلدم دیگه.
یه کاری پیدا بشه که درآمدش بیشتر باشه بازم انجام میدی؟
اگه کاری پیدا بشه که درآمدش بیشتر بشه قبل از این پیداش کرده بودم.
The economic pressure has only worsened this crisis. Sex workers who can't afford to lose their incomes must add the threat of COVID-19 to the other risks they take.
قضیه تکیه کنم دیگه من هیچ جا باید نباید برم دیگه یعنی دیگه باید گشنگی بمیرم بخوام از مریض بترسم انقدر واقعا نیاز دارم مجبورم برم بخوام خیلی هم رعایت کنم و خیلی.
Some women also spoke about being coerced into sex work. Even sex work is shrouded in secrecy in contemporary Iran, but the situation was different before the 1979 Islamic Revolution. One Tehran neighborhood was a legal gray zone. Prostitution was tolerated there. But many women and girls were the victims of trafficking, as one woman explained in this 1966 documentary.
اینا هم که 9 سال، 8 سال، 10 سال، 15 سال دارن اینا را توی جمشید شبا میبرن استفاده میکنن میبرن تو خیابونا میفروشن شبا به راننده ها به مثلا مردمی که میخرن به مردای مثلا عرق خورو فلان میبرن میفروشن.
In the midst of the upheaval of 1979, the neighborhood was attacked by revolutionaries who set an apartment building on fire. An unknown number of residents died. Months later, 3 well-known madams were executed on the orders of a conservative judge.
خدا می‌فرماید قاتلوا ائمة الکفر با سردمداران فساد پیکار کنید و حالا هم وقت اون رسیده است.
Today, with prostitution driven underground, some sex workers are in favor of legalization, saying that would give them greater safety. That entails.
Hello, welcome to this edition of Timeless Conversations. Today the conversation will bring in a very dear friend and brother of mine, someone he is into our line of work. By that, I don't mean he appears on TV or radio, but what he does really brings to your screen in many ways stuff that will touch your heart. He's the founder and managing director of IBST Limited. It's a company that's into media and TV production right here in Lagos. I want to welcome Remy Ogunpitan to Timeless Conversation.
Thank you very much, Lekon. Yes. Nice to be here.
It's a pleasure that you came. I know how busy you can be. Now, Remy, one first question I want to ask you is this. You have a very strong Ijebu background. You also have a UK background, plus your Nigerian background. Tell me who Remy Ogunpitan is.
I don't know. I think I'm a mix of various things. You know, I think our experiences in life and our exposure, the places we live, the schools we go to, the friends that we make, and various, all these. But I went to school in England. I left Nigeria when I was 5, working with in the UK then, and they brought him back, and he was in Kano.
What company was that?
That Raleigh Bicycles.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he rose to become the managing director of Raleigh Bicycles. They came back with Yetunde. I stayed in the UK. I was then, by the time they came back, I had left school, I had left university. I was in the British Army. And come and see what Nigeria was like. And I came, bought a ticket, and went to Kano. And I want to tell you a funny story, because when I was coming back to Nigeria to visit, you know, I decided I was going to look, you know, amazing, that when I arrived at the airport, everybody know that this guy just landed from England, and that there was going to public, what? you know, and I didn't have the address where they were living. All I knew as of that time was my father was the financial director of Raleigh Bicycles. That's all I knew. When I landed in Kano, so I came out with my stuff. I called a taxi driver and I said, look, this is where I'm going. I want to go and look for this man. I want to go to the factory. And it was funny because that was the same man when my parents arrived in Nigeria.
The same man?
Yes, that took them to their home in Alu Avenue.
In Kano?
Yes. So the man said, don't worry. I know who you are. I know where they live. And then he took me straight there. Of course, my father at that time wasn't back from work. He had gone to pick up my mother, who then was teaching, and there was no lights.
Culture shock.
No light. So he dropped me. He said I shouldn't worry about the money, that we'll come back and collect the money. And I sat with
dissonance and
all of that. It didn't exist. The only thing that I witnessed during that period that was anything like that was the Maitosini riots.
Maitosini riots. That was in 1980 or 81.
Yeah, that was the only thing But you know, Igbos, Yorubas, Hausa people, we mixed together. You know, it didn't matter whether you had money or you didn't have money. We were all one. There was nobody, you know. So that was good. So that is where you get that mix of Ijebu, where that is my origins.
Yes.
My father, my mother is from. She always used to tease my father when he used to misbehave. That look, don't talk to me anyhow. I'm from a royal family. My father is doing that, but I was working in the department that used to do that, more like a production secretary.
Yeah, okay.
And I liked it, and I got interested in it. And when I applied to go to uni, which was Leeds University, to study TV production, I went back to Unilag. I did mass comm again. I met Jimmy Odumosu. Worked.
Okay.
That took me to you.
That's true. That's true.